Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles. Chapter 2692. From today onwards, the irreconcilable conflict between him and the primordial gods was completely set in stone. This wasn't because Long Chen was impulsive or careless, but because of fate. First of all, the godly king of Hell's assassination of Lingxi was already an irreconcilable conflict. Secondly, Biyao's messy behavior was all to force him. Admittedly, he felt that he was weak at first. Dragon Emperor and Yang Yu had suggested that Long Chen integrate with the gods. He tried to do so, but the others didn't have the same intention. Now, the only reason he hadn't been dealt with by the gods was because Biyao wanted to defeat him personally. In other words, before she defeats me, I'll be fine. But one day, the godly king and the godly king will return, and the situation will be even more out of my control. I won't have any say, let alone avenge Lingxi. All in all, Long Chen had a difficult path ahead of him. He ignored the gods and returned with Mo Xiaolang and Sui Yan. Their figures gradually disappeared into the horizon, determined to leave. The gods were invincible, but Long Chen was fighting to challenge them. He had too many questions in his heart. These questions and secrets could only be understood when he had the strength of a supreme being. For example, how did the divine dragons go extinct? How did Long Qinglan die? Who was the mysterious existence? He had to get rid of this predicament before the godly king returned. The gods watched Long Chen leave with indifferent eyes. Today was a complete break. Biyao said angrily, "What are you looking at?" Scram! Seeing her white hair, the gods didn't dare to provoke this princess. They hurriedly left, not even the godly king of Hell and the others. They still had their own mission. They didn't come back to the dragon sacrificial continent to play. I didn't expect such a genius to be born in this collapsing world. It's just that even a genius can't save the world. The day the eternal opal is taken away is the day this world perishes. Looking at the vast land, the corner of the god king of Hell's mouth curled into a strange, cold smile. At this time, Long Chen had returned to the Slaughter Dragon City. The Dragon Emperor and Yang Yu were waiting for them. Seeing their concerned expressions, Long Chen felt touched and warm. No matter what, they would always stand by Long Chen's side. Come to my divine kingdom for a chat. Long Chen brought the Dragon Emperor into his god kingdom. The Dragon Emperors looked at each other and couldn't help but sigh. The Eternal Dragon Emperor said angrily, "These ancient gods claim to be their ancestors, but their actions are messy. If they didn't use the eternal opal to save this world, who knows how many people would suspect them?" The Dragon Emperors were a little angry. "Chen, you didn't suffer in the god city of Hell, did you?" The Eternal Night Dragon Emperor asked with concern. Long Chen said, "Don't worry, I'm fine. I just fell out with the gods. Even Biyao sees me as an enemy. The future of our 5 great dragon cities will be in danger because of me." The violent blood dragon emperor shook his head. "Don't blame yourself. This isn't your responsibility. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid we wouldn't even have a home now. No matter what happens in the future, we may be weak, but we will definitely support you unswervingly." Yes. The dragon emperors agreed. Yang Yu said, "If their target is only the 5 great dragon cities, then it's nothing. Even if the 5 great dragon cities can't be passed down, the trillions of living beings in the dragon sacrificial continent will still be fine. It's just that everything that happened recently made us doubt the identity of the ancient gods. The myriad worlds are too big, we can't possibly know this level of secret. Did they return to save this world, or for something else?" Long Chen asked the peerless dragon Salyer, "Do you know why?" The 3-legged black crow was startled. "I don't know. Didn't they say that this is their hometown? Of course they came back to rebuild the world. However, they have an even higher level world in the vast sky domain, with countless living beings that they can enslave. I think they will still leave this place in the future." Vast sky domain? Yes, it's a place among the myriad worlds. There are more upper-level worlds gathered there. The dragon sacrificial continent was originally the lowest-level world, but with the eternal opal, it can barely be considered a middle-level world. At least if the God Emperor takes action, this place can still hold on. The myriad worlds were boundless. The dragon sacrificial continent and the spirit essence star ocean were just a drop in the ocean. In other words, they will leave one day. Long Chen and the others pondered. If you say that their return is just to rebuild their home and then return to their higher level world, I really don't believe it. They don't seem to be such selfless people. I can see that they have no feelings for this world at all. They are selfish, completely unlike what their ancestors should be. So, they must have a secret. That's what everyone thought. Yang Yu suddenly said, in fact, the powerful gods rarely stay in their respective divine cities. I have a feeling that they are wandering the entire dragon sacrificial continent, as if they are looking for something. Like last time, when they entered the curse realm. Long Chen was enlightened, that's right. Their focus should be on searching. Yang Yu gazed at Long Chen, speaking of which, I remember something. While you were in Hell God's city, a small matter happened. Long Chen listened attentively. Yang Yu continued, it's like this. Back when you and the primeval troll fought in the Chaos Starfield, the entire Chaos Starfield was destroyed. We thought that everything was gone, but in front of the gods, there was still a planet in the endless space. Do you know what it is? Long Chen's eyes lit up, the God Star of Destiny. He always knew that the God Star of Destiny was a mysterious place. When he went to the Demon Star, he already had the white floating life grass. He just didn't have time to go in and take a look. His battle with the demons caused such a commotion, he thought the God Star of Destiny was destroyed, just like the other places. He didn't expect it to still exist. Clearly, it was because of its mysteriousness. It might even be a place as mysterious as the Curse Realm. The dragon sacrificial continent used to be number 1, so it was normal for it to exist. There was even the Origin Dragon Palace and the Land of Origin of Dragons. And then? Long Chen asked anxiously. Yang Yu said, the 4 God Kings all went there. From the looks of it, they wanted to sneak into the God Star of Destiny, but quickly retreated. They must have failed. They tried for 2 or 3 months, but to no avail. Then they gave up, leaving 6 God Kings to guard the place. They're probably still trying to find a way to enter the God Star of Destiny. Even the God Kings can't enter? Long Chen started to take this seriously. He remembered that he found a stone lock and a key in the massacred dragon tomb. They were the Destiny Dragon City and the God Star of Destiny. He got the white floating life grass from the Destiny Dragon City, and when he passed by the God Star of Destiny, there was a reaction. Obviously, he could use the white floating life grass to solve the secret of the God Star of Destiny. Now, the white floating life grass was flourishing in his divine kingdom. More importantly, Long Qinglan was a mysterious person. From the ancient blood spirit dragon to the Shinto heart-refining dragon, he was the one who provided or told him all the clues. The God Star of Destiny and the Destiny Dragon City both had the word destiny in them. Could the God Star of Destiny be related to the ancestral dragon worshipped by the Destiny Dragon City? Destiny was the dragon of destiny and wishes. The Dragon of Destiny and Wishes was its title and rule. Its real name was the Mixed Yuan Fate Dragon. The Mixed Yuan Fate Dragon ranked 4th among the 10 ancestral dragons, right behind the Void Universe Dragon. It controlled the Tao of Destiny. Destiny was the fate of all living beings. The Mixed Yuan Fate Dragon influenced the fate of all living beings. He was a very mysterious being among the 10 ancestral dragons, but he was always connected to all living beings. Everything had its cause and effect, and all living beings had their own fate. In the era of divine dragons, the fate of every divine dragon and every living being was in the hands of the Mixed Yuan Fate Dragon. Of course, he was also the wish of all living beings. He was the ancestral dragon born on will. Destiny was second only to time. Cause and effect were second only to fate. Life was second only to karma. Destiny was born before life. Therefore, there was fate first, and then all living beings. Of course, this was just Long Chen's imagination. It was just a possibility. His only goal now was to become stronger. If there was really the ancestral dragon's essence blood, and he could get it, he would not be afraid. After all, he had the white floating life grass. Who are the 6 guardian deities? Long Chen decided to go and take a look, so he asked. Yang Yu said, it will be difficult for you. There are 6 ultimate Sir gods guarding there. One of them is the sorcerer deity, 2 are divine beasts, and 3 are human Sir gods. The sorcerer deity is the strongest in the sorcerer tribe. I'm not sure about the divine beasts, but the 3 ultimate Sir gods should be the 3 remaining ultimate Sir gods apart from Sir God Netherworld. Of course, that is, if we don't include Biyao. Long Chen knew who they were. On the side of the human gods, there were a total of 4 ultimate divine lords. Among them, Yellow Spring Divine Lord was dead. The remaining 3 should be Sacred Fire God, Sir God Soul Hook, and Sir God Phantom. Their abilities were about the same as Sir God Netherworld. If they were to fight one-on-one, none of them would be Long Chen's match. If there were 2 of them, Long Chen could handle them. If there were 3 of them, he might struggle. However, if there were 6 of them, it would be troublesome. At least, it would be more troublesome than 2 Biyao, or even 3 Biyao. Yang Yu saw him hesitating, so he reminded, if you want to go, it seems like you can only do it secretly. You can't let the Divine King know. Otherwise, even if you get something, it won't end up in your hands. Yesterday, I recorded a program on Hubei online radio television station, Madman is Handsome. It will be aired next week. I'll probably post a link on Feng Qingyang's official account. If you want to see who is more handsome than Madman, add me on WeChat. Chapter 2693. The Godly Star of Destiny was a risk. Long Chen wasn't in a rush. Even the 4 godly kings couldn't enter the Godly Star of Destiny, and they had given up. Even if there was something he wanted in the Godly Star of Destiny, no one could take it away. Most importantly, he was in an awkward situation. I have the floating life grass, and I just broke through to the full circle of Tai Chi Divine Realm. It'll be hard for me to increase my cultivation level within a year or 2. If Biyao improves, or if the Godly King and the others come, I won't have a chance to enter the Godly Star of Destiny in the future. In the next year or 2, the Godly Star of Destiny should be the only chance for me to increase my combat power quickly. Plus, if there really is the Ancestral Dragon's blood essence, when the Godly King returns, the Godly Star of Destiny won't be able to stop him. He's someone close to the Ancestral Dragon. Even the Dragon Sacrificial Dragon Continent, which is protected by the Eternal Bright Stone, is like rotten wood in the hands of someone like him. If he gets the Ancestral Dragon's blood essence, no one will be able to stop him. In this world, I should be the only one with the Ancestral Dragon's blood essence. The Fate Ancestral Dragon, ranked 4th, can't fall into someone else's hands. Long Chen had made up his mind. Now that the deities had returned, and there were countless strong warriors, his power had skyrocketed, and he was now the strongest person below the 4 godly kings. But even so, he was alone, and he had to be careful. After all, he had to be responsible for himself, and for the people of the 5 dragon cities. Lingxi is still in the midst of comprehending the heavenly rule spirit technique. It will probably take some time. Before she returns, I have to try my best to reach the level of a godly king of hell. I might even be able to kill a godly king. Godly king. The king of the deities. An influential figure in the world. A real godly dragon had to be a super godly dragon to be able to defeat a godly king. Many of the 5 dragon cities had inherited the blood essence of super godly dragons. Of course, some high-level godly dragons could deal with primordial godly kings. Low-level red dragons couldn't even compare to regular deities. Therefore, Long Chen understood what level he was standing at now. Sui Xiong calmed himself down and started to learn about the situation of the God Star of Destiny and the other gods. He had just left the God's City of Hell, and he could vaguely feel that the God King of Hell was paying attention to him from time to time. Sui Xiong was much stronger than when the God King of Hell tried to assassinate Lingxi. If the God King of Hell was paying attention to him, Sui Xiong would be able to sense it. In the beginning, they paid more attention to him, but later, they paid less and less attention to him. They would only notice him after a few days, or even more than 10 days. Long Chen knew that his time was up. He had to go to the divine planet of destiny. If other deities were to know of his thoughts, they would definitely vomit blood. After becoming a deity, raising one's realm was harder than ascending to the heavens. 80% of people would remain at the primordial stage of the Tai Chi divine realm, unable to advance for eternity. For those with heaven-defying talent, it would take at least hundreds of thousands of years to advance from deity to divine monarch. However, after a few months of Long Chen's time, he couldn't take it anymore. He didn't understand the world of the gods, so he thought that the cultivation speed of the gods was no different from before. Indeed, to him, there wasn't much of a difference. Because he had the support of trillions of living beings. The two people next to him, Soi Yan and Mo Xiaolang, were also quite fast, but that was because they all relied on devouring. One relied on her talent, and the other relied on her own strength. 2 days after the last time the King of Hell noticed Yi Futian entered the state of the Time Dragon and hid himself from all the gods. He quietly headed towards the direction of the divine planet of destiny. With his current divine spirit realm, he could get there in half an hour. The eternal sacred realm was too small for the gods. None of the gods noticed him. He quietly approached the divine planet of destiny. As expected, the divine planet of destiny still existed after that chaotic battle. It was shrouded in a layer of white mist, and he could vaguely see the prosperous world on the divine planet. It seemed to be very lively, and there were many people living there. Looking closely, he could see the expressions on those people's faces, and he could see the patterns on those buildings. The people on the divine planet of destiny used to be called the fated kin. They never showed themselves, and those who entered the divine planet of destiny never came out. Back then, it was still possible to enter the divine planet of destiny. It seems that I can't go in now. There seems to be a barrier that stops the gods. This barrier is probably set up to stop the gods. Long Chen circled the divine planet of destiny using the Time Dragon rule. He didn't make a sound. He saw the 6 ultimate divine emperors who were stationed here. These 6 were the top gods below the God King, and they were all comparable to the God King of Hell. 6 ultimate great essence divine realm experts who were proficient in the rules gathered here, and it was indeed a headache. Most importantly, Long Chen couldn't let them find him, let alone fight against them. If the 3 of them ganged up on him at the same time, he still had a little bit of confidence that he could force them to retreat. However, if the 6 ultimate deities attacked him at the same time, he would probably be blasted to death by their laws before he could even retaliate. He might not even have the chance to retaliate. Long Chen wasn't in a hurry to try. He wanted to know more about the 6 ultimate divine emperors. First of all, he knew the 3 of them. One of them was a young man wearing a white brocade robe. His long hair was tied into a bun, and his eyes were burning with white sacred fire. He was the sacred martial fire god. The sacred martial fire god was actually from Di Jun Divine City. He was Di Jun's family guard. He came with Biyao, but Biyao didn't want him to follow, so he worked for the God King of Hell. Because he was Di Jun's subordinate, the God King of Hell was also very polite to him. The sacred martial fire god wasn't one of the 72 gods. He was a god born thousands of years ago, and he had unlimited potential. He might become a god king in the future. He cultivated 2 laws, the martial law and the sacred fire law. Next to him was a man in a black robe. His face couldn't be seen, and he was dressed like the Curse Realm Guardian. He was God Lord Soul. Although the divine city was in the east, he was on the same side as God Lord Netherworld. His notoriety wasn't any lower than God Lord Netherworld's. However, God Lord Soul came and went without a trace. He liked to assassinate, so he was scarier than God Lord Netherworld. The third one was God Lord Phantom. The Divine City was next to the Dark Divine City. She was the first Divine Emperor under the Dark Goddess. She was a little girl in a short black dress. Her eyes were hollow, and she looked very creepy. It was said that she was a character that could make people tremble in fear. There were also 2 divine beasts and a sorcerer god. The 2 divine beasts were in human form. Both of them were burly men. One was tall, and the other was short. The tall one was not angry, but he had the majesty of an emperor. He had the word king on his forehead, and he was the king of all beasts. The short one was black, and he was even more muscular. His skin was like iron armor, and his eyes were evil. He was full of energy. In terms of power, they were more murderous than the 3 divine emperors. The last one was a sorcerer god. He was very skinny, almost the same size as the little girl God Lord Phantom. He wore a gray robe, and his skin was as dark as iron. He looked thin, but he was actually very tough. He was the leader of the 8 sorcerer gods, Black Sorcerer. He was an expert in the rule of steel. The 6 divine emperors were guarding the divine planet of destiny. When Longchen arrived, they were trying to break through the barrier of the divine planet of destiny. Hence, he hid in the dark and took the opportunity to watch the few ultimate realm divine lords perform. The 3 human divine emperors stood together, and their eyes were like torches. At this moment, one of the 2 mythological beasts made a move. The taller one stood up and said in a deep and dignified voice, "I've tried a few hundred times. Even a god king can't succeed. However, I keep feeling that this barrier has a weak point. Let's try it now." After saying that, he turned into a giant beast. Rumble. What appeared in front of Long Chen was indeed a ferocious tiger. The tiger's body was snow-white, and its body was huge. It was several times bigger than the Destiny Star. After it transformed, the Destiny Star looked like a small ball in its hand. What surprised Long Chen was that this divine beast also cultivated the Tao of slaughter. It was a ferocious tiger of slaughter that was born for the sake of killing. This is Emperor Tiger, the king of all tigers. He's a tiger of slaughter, and he's cultivated the will of slaughter to the extreme. He's very famous in the myriad worlds. The 3-legged black crow recognized him. As he spoke, Emperor Tiger's body shrank. When he was only 1/10 the size of the divine planet of destiny, the ferocious tiger came out and slapped the divine planet of destiny with his sharp claws. Long Chen saw the surface of the divine planet of destiny ripple, and Emperor Tiger was shaken. He had failed. Forget it. Emperor Tiger returned to his human form and said helplessly, "Let's just wait here. When the God Emperors return, they'll be able to break this damned barrier. Luckily, what we're looking for isn't inside. Otherwise, we'll have to wait for the God Emperors to come." The other godly monarchs came to Emperor Tiger's side and frowned at the divine planet of destiny. "The 2 of you monster God Emperors also came with our God Emperor Dijun, right?" The sacred martial fire god said with some arrogance. Emperor Tiger said, "Yes, God Emperor Dijun went to do something else." The 2 demon god emperors also went. Hearing the words demon god emperors, Long Chen thought for a moment. They should be the leaders of the sacrificial dragon god beasts, and their status was similar to Dijun. The 3-legged black crow said, "These 2 demon god emperors haven't been god emperors for long. If they work together, they should be able to restrain God Emperor Dijun. They can be considered new god emperors in the myriad worlds. They were originally gods of the sacrificial dragon continent, so it was normal for them to work together." "What's that divine beast?" After knowing about Emperor Tiger and seeing his strength, Long Chen asked the other godly monarch. Compared to God Lord Yellow Spring, Emperor Tiger was stronger in his physical body and strength, and slightly weaker in his comprehension of the laws. Compared to the human race, the demon race had stronger physical bodies, but weaker Yuan Shen. That was generally the case, but there were still many exceptions. This is a mysterious underworld holy beast. It has the same form as a turtle and a snake, and it's proficient in mysterious underworld laws and water laws. It has a sinister personality, similar to God Lord Soul Hook, but mysterious underworld holy beasts know how to hide and endure. These 6 ultimate realm godly monarchs had their own specialties. There was one more chapter, around 6:20. Chapter 2694. Of course, those who could become ultimate divine monarchs had tens of millions of years of cultivation experience and countless glorious deeds. None of them were Tom, Dick, or Harry characters. After many attempts, they found that every part of the divine planet of destiny was protected by the barrier. The 6 divine emperors gave up. They had unlimited time, so they started chatting. The gods had their secrets. Long Chen listened for a while. They weren't talking about what they were looking for in the Draconic continent, but Long Chen. Sir God Soul Hooking laughed sinisterly and said, "It's a pity that Netherworld Geezer was one of the 4 of us. It's fine that he lost, but he insisted on assassinating Long Chen and Long Chen. In the end, he died." Heavenly Sovereign Di Hu said, "I saw the battle between Long Chen and Princess Biyao. He is indeed very powerful. In a one-on-one battle, even if I cultivate the slaughter laws of law together with him, I shouldn't be his opponent." The sacred martial fire god said, "It's a miracle that he's so powerful at such a young age. It's a pity that he's too wild. He'll die if he goes against us. Plus, he offended the princess. The princess has 2 deity emperors behind her. No matter how talented he is, he won't have a future." Sorcerer God Black Voodoo said with a hoarse voice, "I want to know what's the relationship between him and Princess Biyao." The sacred martial fire god sneered and said, "In the past, I also thought that Princess was telling the truth. Later on, I heard from the Divine King that Princess is still a virgin. Long Chen didn't take advantage of her at all. Princess is young and immature, so she misunderstood. To be honest, the princess really likes him, but he's courting death. If it were me, I'd kill him too. He doesn't even know his status. He really thinks the princess is begging him." Heavenly Sovereign Di Hu said, "How long do you think Long Chen can live? Can the princess surpass him? To be honest, there's no such genius among the 3 races." The sacred martial fire god was a little displeased. He said, he came from a humble background, but he had some fortuitous encounters that allowed his cultivation to skyrocket when he just became a god. It's still too early to make a conclusion about his future. We can't be sure if he's really a peerless genius. In addition, the princess is the daughter of 2 god emperors. Previously, she was just playing around. Now that she has made up her mind to cultivate, no one can stop her. Therefore, this thorn in our side will soon be dead. Not only him, but everyone related to him is also a nuisance in the eyes of the gods. They must be eliminated." Long Chen's eyes narrowed when he heard this. However, according to the sacred martial fire god, not only was he a thorn in their side, but he also wanted to get rid of Xiao Lang and the others, as well as the 5 dragon cities. This was a blood feud. He sneered. It seemed like the divine star of destiny was his only chance. He wasn't an idiot. He wouldn't sit around and wait for death. He wouldn't let the 5 dragon cities and everyone he cared about die with him. Speaking of which, who killed Long Chen's wife? Just then, Sir God Phantom, who looked like a little girl, asked with a childish and clean voice. When she spoke, her eyes were empty. She didn't look at anyone, as if she was blind. No one answered this question for a long time. In the end, the soul-captivating god laughed and said, "Who cares? She was indeed a beauty. It's a pity that she was just a mortal. For us, mortals are no different from animals." Hee hee. Long Chen listened for a while. He was very angry, but he didn't get any useful information. It seemed that they were being very careful. They wouldn't leak the most important information. He started to move. He stealthily arrived at the location where the 6 divine monarchs were, opposite the divine planet of destiny. If he did not make any movements, with his current attainments in the Time Dragon, it would indeed be very difficult for them to discover him, because Long Chen had escaped into the River of Time. At this moment, he was close to the Divine Star of Destiny. The barrier they broke was right in front of Long Chen. It was something that even the 4 Divine Kings couldn't break. Long Chen wanted to go in and see what was inside the Divine Star of Destiny. I can't let any god find me, or I'll be ruined, he told himself. He was relying on the white floating grass. Why was he so confident? That was because the white floating life grass had started to sway again when it got close to Planet Destiny. When Long Chen got close to Planet Destiny, he quietly took out the white floating life grass. At this moment, he had to exit the Time Dragon state, so he had to be careful. The 6 Divine Emperors were as sensitive as Long Chen. When the floating grass touched the barrier, Long Chen almost suffocated. Then, he found a surprising fact. When he used the floating grass to get close to the barrier began to melt, and a hole that Long Chen could enter appeared. Long Qinglan had found a way for Long Chen to enter the Divine Star of Destiny. From the outside, the Divine Star of Destiny looked like a prosperous world, with many people inside. However, when Long Chen broke through the clouds and the barrier, he was shocked to find that the planet of destiny was completely different from what he had seen through the gap. In front of him was an incomparably desolate and barren land. This was an extremely broken planet. There were no signs of life at all. It was a desolate and miserable place, with gray dust everywhere. How could this be? He thought that the fated kin and the prosperity were all real. It seemed that no one had ever seen the real Divine Star of Destiny before. Long Chen sighed in his heart. He found that the place that was broken by the floating grass was beginning to recover. Then, the God King of Hell came to find me, so I hurried back and the barrier was closed again. In other words, I'm the only one who can enter Destiny Star. Everyone nodded and waited for him to continue. Long Chen was their leader, and they knew that what happened next was the most important thing. Long Chen paused for a moment, then gritted his teeth and said, "The God King of Hell said a few words to me. He made me understand that my fate and everyone's lives are in the hands of the ancient gods, the God King of Hell and Biyao. Life and death are in their hands. This won't do, so I decided, tomorrow at noon, Feng Qingyang's public account would hold a lucky draw." The prize was not available on the market, it was a limited edition commemorative book signed by Lunatic. Those who wanted it had to add Lunatic's WeChat ID. Lunatic would send questions to everyone's phones at noon tomorrow. Everyone, get ready to answer them. Go. Chapter 2695. Long Chen was very clear about this. For the gods, the 5 dragon cities were nothing. The only purpose of the 5 dragon cities was to be used as a tool to threaten Long Chen. Long Chen said, "The Divine Star of Destiny may be the only chance to change my future. It will allow me to fight against God Kings in a short time. Otherwise, I'll have to wait for a few years. If I enter the Divine Star of Destiny and the God King of Hell doesn't find me, he'll definitely be suspicious. I'm afraid he'll do something bad to you." But if he didn't enter the Divine Star of Destiny and just waited, just like what the God King of Hell said, his fate was already in their hands. In the future, either Biyao would defeat him, or the God King would come back to punish him. The 5 dragon cities were in decline now. They had no way to fight against the gods. If he was gone, they would be dealt with sooner or later. His analysis was very clear. Everyone was waiting for his decision. He was a man who was good at taking risks. He would never choose to sit and wait for death. So in fact, everyone had already guessed his decision. It wasn't hard to guess. Even the Dragon Emperors had similar plans before. Long Chen finally said solemnly, "With my current God's kingdom, I want to move the 5 dragon cities and millions of people into my God's kingdom. From now on, the 5 dragon cities will live in my God's kingdom. I will live and die with everyone. Everyone will be one with me. We will fight against this so-called destiny together." I'd like to ask for your opinions. He didn't need to say it. The dragon emperors already knew it. Needless to say, Mo Xiaolang and the others agreed. Right now, Long Chen was their pillar. The 5 dragon cities were his fetters. The only way to let him fight with peace of mind was to enter the god's kingdom. The 15 dragon emperors looked at Long Chen with bright eyes and smiled at him. Yang Yu, you say it. The dragon emperors said. In fact, they knew very well that this was their way of dealing with the gods. They changed from waiting for death to resisting. Once Long Chen moved the 5 great dragon cities into Scandinavia, it would simply be sending a signal to the gods that he wanted to escape. The gods would definitely think that he wanted to leave Dragon's sacrificial continent and go to another world. But they didn't know that Long Chen only wanted to go to the divine planet of destiny. That was a place that only he could enter, even the divine king couldn't. If he quietly waited for death, he would definitely not have a good ending in the future. Therefore, Long Chen chose to fight with his back to the wall. Currently, the gods were only using the 5 dragon cities to threaten Long Chen, but Long Chen did not want them to take control. He wanted to make the most crucial and boldest move. This was a very important decision. It was very likely that he would bring forward the destruction of the 5 great dragon cities. If he failed and was killed, the 5 dragon cities would not be spared. If he didn't take any measures, he might be able to live for a while. The fact that the dragon emperors let Yang Yu make the decision meant that they believed in Long Chen. Yang Yu was Long Chen's mother after all. At this moment, she almost didn't think and said, Chen, be bold and do what you have decided. This is definitely your era. The gods can't defeat you. She gave Long Chen the greatest affirmation. Okay. With their selfless support, Long Chen was simply full of confidence. Even his eyes were shining. This was a historical moment. Since he had obeyed the gods, this was the first time he had brazenly embarked on the path of rebelling against the gods. The only thing he could rely on was the divine planet of destiny. Don't leak this news first. I will secretly move. From today onwards, the fate of all of us dragon martial artists rests in your hands. This was pressure, and also Long Chen's determination. He wasn't afraid of this kind of pressure. He had this idea before, but he hadn't really put it into action. They were dragon warriors, and their system was different from the gods. They didn't pursue gods, but dragons. Then, let's do it. Let's start now. Everyone, go back and pack your things. In 2 hours, I will go to the devouring dragon city and start the operation. Yes. The dragon emperors hadn't had this kind of passion in a long time. They returned to their respective god cities to put away some important things, the most important of which should be the preserved divine dragon's inheritance blood essence. The inheritance blood essence was worth more than even a destinable artifact to them. Long Chen, Mo Xiaolang, and the others were together. Big brother, I've been holding it in for a long time. To be honest, I also don't like these gods. I also have my eyes on a few gods who cultivate the rules of fire. If we start a war, it will be an opportunity for me to improve. Mo Xiaolang's talent for advancement was not as good as Long Chen's. If he wanted to cultivate, it might take him 1,000,000 years to advance 1 level. If he wanted to devour, he could do it in 1 battle. Therefore, he didn't need to cultivate at all because he could even devour rules of fire. As for Suyin, there was no need to talk about her. She was already very powerful. It was just that her power was lacking after being sealed for millions of years. A bunch of freaks. My Lord Cat is still the most handsome and the most normal. Kitten rolled his eyes and said in a bored tone. He had always been so calm. To others, it was a big decision that would change history and fate, but to him, it was just that. 2 hours passed in the blink of an eye. The dragon emperors were all ready. It was time to prepare for action. Long Chen took one last look at this world. This was the world he protected. Now that he had protected the 5 dragon cities, the other places were handed over to the primordial gods. Fortunately, the primordial gods wouldn't hurt other living beings. Begin. Now, inside the 5 dragon cities, all the dragon warriors still didn't know what was about to happen. The dragon emperors had already secretly gathered the dragon warriors together. Long Chen was also paying attention to the God King of Hell's movements at all times, because only the God King of Hell could restrain him. He came to the devouring dragon city. Without a word, he opened the god nation and swallowed all the hundreds of thousands of dragon warriors. There was enough space in his god nation for them to live in. He also absorbed enough world creation spiritual chi for them to cultivate. This was a god. In the blink of an eye, the devouring dragon Long Chen was empty. There was not a single dragon warrior left. Without making a sound, Long Chen saw the cosmos teleportation grand formation Lingxi had set up, as well as the empty devouring dragon city. See you next time. He arrived at the Eternal Dragon City. The Eternal Dragon Emperor and the others were also ready. In the God Nation, the 3 dragon emperors of the devouring dragon city were telling all the dragon warriors about Long Chen's actions, about resistance and fighting spirit, as well as inheritance and dignity. The devouring dragon city and the Eternal Dragon City were the most dangerous places. Long Chen was very calm. He settled the Eternal Dragon City once again. Next was Destiny Dragon City. Destiny Dragon City, and Long Chen was now controlling his own fate, the fate of the dragon warriors. Success. The last 2 were completed. There were already 9 dragon emperors in the God Nation pacifying the dragon warriors. Now there were millions of dragon warriors in the God Nation. The next goal was to go from Destiny Dragon City to the Life Dragon City. Life, East. Black Jade Dragon Head, Origin Dragon Palace, Ancestral Dragon Cave. Long Chen looked to the east, and he was even more determined. If he was a dragon, he would fight and resist. The 5 great dragon cities had been passed down for so long, how could they be killed so easily? The hundreds of thousands of dragon warriors from the Life Dragon City also entered the God Nation, leaving only Long Chen's base, the Slaughter Dragon City. At this moment, he was still the Slaughter Dragon Emperor, the leader of all the dragon warriors, and the ruler of the 5 great dragon cities. Dragon warriors, follow me. The cruel blood dragon emperor had already gathered them together. All the dragon warriors looked to the sky in disgust, not knowing what was going to happen. At this moment, Long Chen appeared in the sky. Slaughter Dragon Emperor. The dragon warriors were full of worship and cheered. Brothers and sisters of the dragons, enter my God Nation. I have something to announce. With Long Chen's words, the dragon warriors didn't resist at all. Hundreds of thousands of people rushed forward and entered Long Chen's God Nation. This huge project was finally completed. Nearly 2 million dragon warriors gathered in the God Nation. This was almost all the dragon warriors on the dragon sacrificial continent. There were also some scattered outside, but there was nothing to be done. Of course, they weren't in the 5 great dragon cities, so no one would harm them. Long Chen quickly rushed to the god planet of destiny with his fastest speed. The Dragon Emperor had probably explained it to them. Hearing such a shocking thing, all the dragon warriors couldn't recover from their shock. But during this period of time, they had indeed been very sullen. Brothers and sisters, please believe me. One day, I will bring everyone back to our 5 great dragon cities. Long Chen could only tell them this. But even with this sentence, the dragon warriors still cheered. They wanted to fight together with Long Chen. But at this moment, the God King of Hell's roar came like a great bell. Long Chen, are you trying to escape? There's an exam this afternoon, so I won't update at 18. There are still 2 chapters at night, so it might be late. Don't worry, everyone. Also, please follow my Sino Weibo, Feng Qingyang. Madman participated in an activity called University Student Star of Self-Improvement and posted a participating Weibo. It's the latest one, please help me repost it. Chapter 2696. At the last moment, the deity king of hell found out. At this moment, it wasn't exactly good news, but it wasn't bad news either. At least at this moment, Long Chen had already brought all the dragon warriors into the god nation. If I'm still in the other 4 dragon cities, let the deity king of hell find out. By the time I bring all the dragon warriors into the god nation, you'll definitely be in the slaughter dragon city. The deity king of hell's speed was so fast that it almost surpassed the speed of the Qian Kun shifting formation. Of course, Long Chen didn't bother to answer him. The most important thing now was to rush to the divine planet of destiny. Before this, the Dragon Emperor had already told the dragon warriors about the fact that Long Chen could enter the divine planet of destiny, while the other 4 deity kings couldn't. Therefore, everyone knew that the goal of this dangerous operation was to rush to the divine planet of destiny. They also heard the earth-shattering voice of the deity king of hell. With the speed of the deity king of hell, he would naturally catch up. This was a competition of speed. Long Chen burst out with unprecedented power and rushed towards the divine planet of destiny. In fact, the deity king of hell only thought that he wanted to escape from the dragon sacrificial continent and go to other worlds. In the eyes of the gods, Long Chen was now a criminal. He had to wait for the divine emperor or Biyao to punish him. Of course, he couldn't let Long Chen slip away and bring all the dragon warriors with him. The roar of the deity king of hell was heard by all the gods, as long as they were above the eternal god realm. They were all very shocked and followed the deity king of hell. Some of the gods were closer to where Long Chen was, but they couldn't catch up with Long Chen at all. Among the human race, all the divine emperors were in the divine planet of destiny. To be honest, these 6 divine emperors also heard the roar of the deity king of hell. A thrilling scene was on the verge of breaking out. To Long Chen's relief, the dragon warriors were not afraid. Instead, they were just like Long Chen's battle against the primeval troll. They were full of faith and passion for Long Chen. They did not blame Long Chen for bringing them danger. From their point of view, ever since the return of the gods, their lives had been particularly sullen, especially after the incident with Thunder God from the 9th heaven. They were grateful to Long Chen and Mo Xiaolang. Otherwise, they would have had to leave their homes. In the hands of all the dragon martial artists, Long Chen had always been their spiritual belief. No matter what decision Long Chen made, they would enthusiastically support him. They had given Long Chen the strongest wish power of all living beings. Slaughtering Dragon Emperor. Led us against the primordial gods. We have been oppressed. Even if they are our ancestors, they can't be so excessive. The 5 dragon cities have been around for millions of years. We don't need to care about others. Our fate is not in their hands. This was the voice of their hearts. This voice became the strongest and bravest power in Long Chen's heart. He was confident that the deity king of hell couldn't catch up with him. Ever since he reached the peak of the Tai Chi divine realm, his speed had soared to the extreme. In fact, he was infinitely close to the level of a deity king, even closer than Biyao. In terms of speed, the deity king of hell was only a little bit faster than him, but there was still some distance between them. Long Chen was like a beam of blood-red light. He turned into a divine dragon and traveled millions of miles in the blink of an eye. Why doesn't he take out the divine warship for space travel? This was a problem that bothered the deity king of hell. If Long Chen really wanted to run away, he could have used his Wind Moon divine warship. Madman will do his job well. Of course, Long Chen would choose to avoid them first. Defeating them one by one and letting them die here one by one was the hard way. If he had no other choice, Long Chen would consider killing a god. He had already killed God Lord Netherworld. If Biyao did not protect him, when the stronger gods returned, his fate would not be optimistic. Now that he was ready to fight to the death, if the other party still did not give him a way out, he would not be polite. He was curious, though. If he let Soi Eon devour all 6 final realm divine monarchs, to what extent would she recover? The sacred martial fire god was a famous human divine monarch. He was known as the leader of the divine monarchs. He cultivated the sacred martial god of war record, which was a Genesis realm god. His divine power was like a white sacred fire, vast and grand. It came from the same source as Biyao's great emperor Yang Yuan. They were both yang fire power, but the sacred martial fire god's power leaned towards the purification lineage. Sacred killing fist. The sacred martial fire god was filled with anger when he was forced back by Long Chen's blood spirit thrust. Now that the other 5 gods were attacking, he completely let go and used the divine monarch rule that he had directly comprehended, sacred killing fist. This fist was almost the symbol of the sacred martial fire god. It was grand and vast, radiant and full of killing intent. Everywhere it went, evil retreated and all things submitted. The so-called Saint Tao was a righteous and honorable Tao. Lingxi's Tao seal of element also belonged to this lineage. As for the killing fist, it was a fist of light and slaughter, representing righteousness and majesty. The feeling that the Saint Tao killing fist gave Long Chen was that of the ancient gods. It seemed pure and holy, but it was actually majestic and cold-blooded. Long Chen was about to leave and explore the secrets of the divine star of destiny, but the sacred martial fire god was already here. How could he escape? Without saying a word, he turned around and drew his blade. The dragon-slaying blade felt Long Chen's battle intent and let out an ear-piercing screech. A black aura spread, and Long Chen's speed suddenly increased. He used the chaotic sea of time with one hand and the peerless blade scripture with the other. Within the peerless blade scripture, there was the rule of the Karma King sword. The Karma King sword was a sword that could sever karma, and did not need a sword to be used. As long as Long Chen was willing, he could use it with his arm, but the effect would be different. Now that he had fused the rule into the peerless blade scripture, its power was actually even greater. The chaotic sea of time caused the speed of the sacred killing fist to go haywire, and its power was greatly reduced. The sacred martial fire god was originally charging forward, but at this moment, he was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. And under the chaotic sea of time, Long Chen's speed suddenly increased, and he suddenly passed the point where the sacred martial fire god's fist was most concentrated, and used the dragon-slaying blade to unleash the Karma King sword. A double attack of time and cause and effect. Long Chen unleashed the rules of the divine ability to the extreme. His hand rose and the blade fell. The sacred martial fire god turned pale with fright. He adjusted the sacred killing fist, but he was unable to completely block Long Chen's killing move. In the end, Long Chen's blade deviated and slashed at his shoulder. An arm that was shining with boundless light suddenly flew up and smashed into the barrier of the divine star of destiny, and was directly shattered. The sacred martial fire god cried out in pain and immediately fled. Can't even withstand a single blow. Long Chen looked down on this kind of guy who only knew how to shout the most. In terms of true fighting strength, this sacred martial fire god was probably the weakest. The other final realm divine monarchs, on the other hand, gave him a feeling of danger. Everyone, let's work together to kill him. The sacred martial fire god's face was deathly pale. He ran to the periphery to recover his arm and shouted arrogantly. Generally speaking, those who were good at talking nonsense were all cowards. This sacred martial fire god was previously extremely arrogant in front of Long Chen, but in the blink of an eye, he was terrified. However, what was troublesome was that the other final realm divine monarchs had all charged forward. Long Chen did not dare to underestimate them. To be able to grow to the level of a king amongst the countless gods, they were definitely not simple. They all had their own abilities, and their names shook the myriad realms. Other than the 4 god kings, the 6 in front of him were the strongest of the gods that had returned this time. The battle between Long Chen and them could be considered the pinnacle battle below the god king. After the sacred martial fire god was beaten back, the first to charge forward was the demon race's heavenly venerable Di Hu. This tiger was snow white, but he cultivated the slaughter Tao. Although it looked simple, his strength was actually one of the most terrifying among the 6. Just as Long Chen raised his head, a huge white tiger descended. Boom! Longchen suddenly transformed into a dragon and fought against the terrifying Heavenly Venerable Di-Hu. The Heavenly Venerable Di-Hu was the king of beasts, born with the aura of a king and domineering might. Your strength is not bad. Take this. Execution after autumn. People like to use autumn to describe tigers, because autumn was the season of killing. It was cold and bleak, full of killing intent. Heavenly Venerable Di-Hu's rule was based on autumn. All he could see was that his face was pale, and his mouth was thin and long. It was very strange. Although he was a divine sovereign, his death aura was overwhelming. You killed my good partner, Yellow Spring's old ghost, Divine Sovereign Soul Hooking said with a smile. Chapter 2698. Whoosh. Divine Lord Soul Hooking was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, a creation divine weapon appeared in his hand. Not surprisingly, it was a creation-level item. After all, it would be embarrassing if he couldn't take out a creation-level item after reaching the ultimate Divine Lord realm. It was a pitch-black scythe with a skull pattern on it. Death chi surged around it, and it was extremely eerie. The scythe wasn't very big, and there were billions of vengeful spirits hidden within it. Countless screeching faces emerged from the scythe, screaming at Longchen. They even seemed to have stretched out their hands, grabbing at Longchen. Longchen could feel that those hands were pulling at his soul, trying to pull him into the scythe. You will soon be one of them, Longchen. Fighting against gods, this is a huge joke. Divine Lord Soul Hooking's voice followed him like a shadow. He caught up to Longchen. The black scythe had already arrived. Longchen instantly felt that his soul had been locked on, and could be taken out of his body at any time. Is that so? Today was simply challenging Longchen's limits. 6 divine lords, just thinking about it was shocking. But he was indeed facing them, and he had even forced back the sacred martial fire god and heavenly sovereign Di-Hu. At that moment, facing Divine Lord Soul Hooking's creation-level scythe, he suddenly turned around and slashed back with the peerless dragon blade in his hand. Although Divine Lord Soul Hooking's frontal attack was not strong, it was very strange. Longchen's slash was time splitter. The berserk blade and scythe met. No matter how strong Divine Lord Soul Hooking was, he could not face Longchen's strongest attack. In 3 breaths of time, his life was in Longchen's hands. At that moment, he was finally terrified. If not for the fact that the other divine lords had already charged at him, Longchen would have been able to kill him. If he killed him, Longchen would have to face the attacks of at least 3 divine lords at the same time. That would not be worth it. Without another word, he retreated. Divine Lord Soul Hooking, who had been hit by Time Splitter, lost most of his power. He was almost swallowed by the divine star of destiny and fell into it. Dang dang. At this moment, a gigantic shadow was blocking Longchen's path. It was the sorcerer god. He had consecutively defeated 3 final realm divine lords, leaving the divine lords gasping in amazement. Only Longchen could produce such a glorious battle record. If they allowed Longchen to continue defying the heavens, they would lose all face. Black Sorcerer had transformed into a black steel giant. In such an urgent situation, Longchen did not have the time to see what he looked like. In any case, there was one aspect in which he surpassed Di-Hu, and that was his tough body. This was the most terrifying steel Longchen had ever seen. Boom boom boom. He charged at Longchen with an earth-shattering sound. Longchen abruptly transformed into a divine Tao heart-refining dragon. Accelerate and charge. Divine prison of swords and sabers. With millions of swords as the vanguard, and the sword of judgment as the apex, he exerted all his strength, accelerated by the chaotic sea of time, and collided with the steel sorcerer on the divine planet of destiny. Rumble. An unprecedentedly terrifying collision sound erupted. Both sides were extremely tough. This was a head-on clash, with no technique to speak of. The other 5 divine lords felt their scalps go numb. But in the end, Long Chen still suppressed the Steel Sorcerer. His sword of judgment pierced through Black Sorcerer's fist and sent the Sorcerer God flying. He had defeated 4 Divine Lords in a row. He had only used one move each time. Such a glorious battle record moved the gods. The remaining 2 Divine Lords naturally could not remain idle. They had been chasing Long Chen from the beginning, but they had failed to catch up to him. Long Chen was in no mood to fight with them, so he could avoid being besieged by them at the same time. However, with a few Divine Lords obstructing him, he finally could not escape the fate of being besieged. But this time, there were only 2 people attacking him. A giant turtle with a snake's head, a snake's body, and a snake's tail. A pale little girl in a short black dress. Long Chen could not see Phantom God Lord, but he knew that she was nearby. And the one attacking him now was the mysterious underworld beast. Mysterious underworld sea. Long Chen had just defeated the sorcerer god and the mysterious underworld beast had used its nomological power on him. Suddenly, Long Chen was surrounded by an endless sea. It was an extremely evil, and cold sea that covered the sky and earth. There was nowhere to escape. The terrifying seawater was freezing Long Chen's divine body. This nomological power was similar to Netherworld Divine Lord Sea of Bitterness. But the mysterious underworld sea was colder and more violent. It was bone-chilling. Under such circumstances, Phantom God Lord remained by his side. The other Divine Lords that he had defeated were about to surround him. If he did not leave now, he would be completely surrounded. Long Chen did not panic. Instead, he smiled coldly and transformed into the Tai Chi living dragon. He activated the 14 Lives spiritual array in his strongest form. The mysterious underworld sea was just a kind of array power. As long as it was an array, the 14 Lives spiritual array could break it down and transform it. 14 huge spiritual arrays enveloped the mysterious underworld sea, breaking it down and transforming it. Even the mysterious underworld beast could only watch as its own attack was replaced by Long Chen's. Explode. At that moment, Long Chen felt a murderous intent lock onto his chest. It was the location of the nomological core. Phantom God Lord, who had been lying low for a long time, had finally made her move. Phantom God Lord was the king of assassins among the Divine Lords. She came and went without a trace. She was the fastest and had been looking for an opportunity. But Long Chen had not given her the chance. Therefore, she could only attack now. If she did not attack, Long Chen would escape. At that moment, Long Chen detonated the 14 Lives spiritual array. As long as it was near him, everything would be destroyed. You're too slow. Long Chen smiled faintly in that direction. The 14 Lives spiritual array caused an unprecedented commotion. Rumble. Colorful lights bloomed and the 6 Sir Gods were sent flying. Sir God Phantom, who was in the middle, was the first to bear the brunt of the attack. Not only did she not get close to Long Chen, but she was also hit directly. She was the most injured. When the light dissipated, Long Chen was nowhere to be seen. The 6 Divine Lords that were left behind were almost all injured. They looked at each other with ugly expressions. Heavenly Venerate D, who said, I underestimated him. I didn't expect him to escape from the 6 of us and even injure us. He's really strong. It's not an exaggeration to call him the strongest below the Divine King. Sacred Martial Fire God was furious. I don't accept this. This coward actually ran away. If the 6 of us attacked together, he definitely wouldn't be able to stop us. This won't do. I have to tell the God King that this kind of person can't be captured alive. We can only kill him. If we kill him, we won't be restrained anymore. Phantom Emperor opened her eyes. She glanced at the sacred martial fire god and said, Were your hands and feet tied just now? Sacred martial fire god was speechless. He had used all his strength but had been defeated by Long Chen in one move. If not for his companions, he would have ended up like Divine Lord Netherworld. Soul Hook God said, All right, stop arguing. We should work together. As for what to do next, we will listen to the Divine King. They told the Divine King everything they had seen on the Divine Planet of Destiny, as well as the details of the battle. Almost all the gods were gathered outside the Divine Planet of Destiny. From their point of view, the Divine Planet of Destiny was a small but prosperous place. It was very lively inside. There were 3 Divine Kings at the front. They were Hell Divine King, Star Divine King, and Light Divine King. The last Monster Divine King was not here. The 3 Divine Kings all had different expressions. The gods were discussing among themselves, but none of them looked good. They were all very angry. The God King of Hell had a gloomy look on his face as he said, "I didn't expect the interior of the Divine Planet of Destiny to be like this. This is indeed out of our expectations. This mysterious place of the dragon sacrificial continent is really not good. Previously, the Curse Realm was the same, and now this Divine Planet of Destiny is the same." Light Divine King said, "The strongest in the world can't be simple. For example, Long Chen is a miracle. His goal from the beginning was to fight to the death and enter Planet Destiny. But we thought he was going to run away. I was one breath away from going in. If I had gone in, it wouldn't have been so troublesome. Those 6 useless things." Starry Sky Godly King was rather rational. He said, "It's not that they're useless. I'm very clear about the strength of those 6, especially Di-Hu and the Black Tortoise. I personally nurtured them, so I know what level they're at. Long Chen was able to injure every single one of them and then disappear from under their noses. This proves that he's close to our level. He has already chosen to go all out and break off relations with us. We have to think of a way to solve this problem." The God King of Hell nodded and ordered the 6 divine monarchs, "Go find Long Chen. Remember, don't split up. He's useless now, and this matter is of great importance. Don't hold back, kill him if you can. Find the mysterious grass in his hand and break the barrier. Let us in and study this divine star of destiny." The 6 divine kings obeyed. "For now, we can only wait here." Hell Divine King suppressed his anger and said helplessly. The gods were stunned. They, as dignified primordial divine spirits, had actually been toyed around by Long Chen after coming to this place. This was simply too ridiculous. Everyone felt a deep sense of humiliation on their faces. "I have an idea. Isn't Long Chen concerned about the lives of the living beings on this dragon sacrificial continent? We can randomly pick 100 million people and kill them on the spot. I don't believe that he will sit back and watch." The Divine Storm Monarch quickly said. "Shut up." Hell Divine King slapped her face. Her face was covered with blood. He said angrily, "Whoever says something like this again will be imprisoned for 1,000,000 years." The gods were shocked. They shut their mouths. In fact, many of them had thought of this idea, but Storm Divine King said it first. Long Chen took the 5 dragon cities away because he cared about the lives of the people around him. If the Legion of Gods really did that, then Long Chen would definitely come out. Other than the 5 dragon cities, all of the other living beings were connected to him. They were his compatriots, so of course he would come out. Although her face was still as delicate and beautiful as before, her coldness was awe-inspiring. Hell God King had interacted with her the most, so he knew how difficult it was to deal with her. He nodded and said, "This barrier is a mysterious thing in this world. The 3 of us couldn't break it even after using all our strength. Now that the one from the monster clan is here, we can only try again with the 4 of us." Biyao stared at the flourishing god planet of destiny. Although she didn't say anything, she was trembling with anger. Long Chen never listened to her. After breaking up with her, this decision was the most powerful counterattack against Biyao. She was even angrier than when she was defeated by Long Chen. "I'll give you 1 month to break it. Capture Long Chen. I'll teach him a lesson myself. If even that guy from the monster clan can't do it, use the eternal opal to break it open. You guys can't break it, but the eternal opal can. Biyao cursed. The other gods didn't dare to say anything. The three god kings were silent. That's right, the eternal opal could do it. But, Hell God King said, Princess, don't worry. There are 6 ultimate godly monarchs attacking Longchen. If nothing goes wrong, they'll be able to get the key to open the barrier. When that time comes, you can punish Longchen as you please. The 4 of us will also do our best. After all, this is related to our mission. But the eternal opal, without the God King's order, we can't use it. Biyao sneered, don't worry. I'll contact my father and tell him the situation. With her going to apply and bear the responsibility, the God Kings naturally weren't afraid. Indeed, as long as they used the eternal opal, there was nothing they couldn't break. Before coming to the dragon sacrificial continent, Dijun had given them a certain ability to use the eternal opal. Remember, 1 month. Biyao said coldly before leaving. If she stayed here, she wouldn't be able to hold back her anger. After the heaven incantation of indifference failed, her mother actually couldn't contact her anymore. Previously, she relied on the jade hairpin, but now the jade hairpin was broken. It was even possible that because of some change in Longchen, God Emperor Indifference might be injured. This damn thing. You let me down and even hurt my mother. This time, when you come out, I'll use my own strength to tear you into pieces. Now that I've awakened the law of indifference, why would I be afraid of you? She had to do it with her own hands to resolve the hatred in her heart. From love to hate, it was that simple. In fact, Longchen could easily avoid them. Relying on the huge movement of the 14 Lives formation and escaping into the river of time, it was very easy to get rid of them. Moreover, the divine planet of destiny was so huge, with its huge gravity and super-stable space. Longchen could only use about 1/10 of his speed here. On such a huge planet, relying on a much slower speed than usual to find him was nothing more than a pipe dream. In the God Nation, all the dragon warriors couldn't help but exclaim when they saw this huge piece of barren land. They couldn't imagine that there was such a vast land next to the dragon sacrificial continent. This is really a miracle. This divine planet of destiny shouldn't have anything to do with the war of gods and demons thousands of years ago. It seems to have appeared out of nowhere in this chaos galaxy. Its history should be even more ancient, probably from an era before the era of dragons. Longchen was now stepping on this divine planet of destiny with its huge gravity, advancing on this vast planet. In fact, he had 2 choices. First, he could explore this divine planet of destiny and find what he wanted. Second, he could kill the 6 monarchs as soon as possible to prevent them from finding what he wanted before he did. Longchen chose the first option, to explore first because he was too curious about this world. Besides, he had a certain degree of confidence. If it really was the ancestral dragon's blood inheritance, then not everyone could get it, just like in the 3 Lives divine stone. He still had some leeway with the 6 monarchs. If they didn't show him any mercy, then he could only fight to the death, which would allow Soyian to recover her strength. If they were enemies, Longchen wouldn't show them any mercy. Being merciful to others was being cruel to yourself and your own people. Moreover, it would be very difficult to kill all of them, because they were always together. If Longchen chose to kill them one by one, then it would probably take a long time. He also considered another possibility, which was that a god king had broken through the barrier and entered. This was a possibility. Therefore, he had to find the mystery of this divine planet of destiny as soon as possible. Longchen walked on this endless desolate star. There was nothing in the sky, only sand and dust filled the sky. Even with such gravity, it was a miracle that the sand and dust could still fly. This divine planet of destiny, Longchen felt as if he had entered a curse world. It came from the distant ancient times, with a thick aura of desolation, and also a thick smell of the divine dragon era. This must be a secret place. Father must have wanted me to come here. Longchen couldn't help but think of Long Qinglan. He was the one who let him find this place. He had passed by this divine planet of destiny many times, but he didn't expect this to happen this time. After walking for about half a day, he finally saw something different. What is this? Long Chen was somewhat astonished. He hurriedly moved forward. In front of him, he saw a vast expanse of white. It was a gentle light that stuck to the ground. It was like a glowing river that flowed in front of him. Long Chen immediately sped up. When he walked closer, he realized that it wasn't a river, but he couldn't explain what it was. In front of him, there were hundreds of thousands of snakes. The snakes weren't big, the longest was only about 10 meters long. They were all moving at the same speed, moving from the right to the left of Long Chen. Because they were so close together, they were all crawling forward, so Long Chen thought it was a river. But they weren't snakes. They were giving off a misty white light, but they didn't have a physical body. Long Chen only needed to touch them lightly to make them disappear. Their eyes were dull, and there were hundreds of thousands of them crawling forward in a mighty manner. Long Chen noticed that there was also a shackle made of white light on their bodies, wrapping them from head to tail. Even if it was a shackle, Long Chen only needed to touch it lightly to make it disappear. This is the only thing on this divine planet of destiny. It must be related to the secret of this place. Long Chen was certain in his heart. He followed the group of light and shadow snakes and moved forward with them. He wanted to see where exactly the group of snakes was heading in. One of the whirlpools was the starting point, and the other was the destination. The one closest to Long Chen was the destination. The white fluorescent snakes that had been running around Planet Destiny rushed into the whirlpool in front of him. When they touched the water, they turned into sparkling powder and merged into the whirlpool. As for the vortex in front of them, it was the starting point. The number of little snakes that dissipated here would be the same number that formed there. After forming there, they would continue to move forward. They would probably circle around the divine planet of destiny before returning to the starting point. Why is this happening? Long Chen was confused. He stood quietly in front of the huge whirlpool, watching each white snake rush into the whirlpool without hesitation and then disappear. Their eyes were empty and lifeless. They did not seem to be alive, but Long Chen felt a feeling that only a divine dragon could have from them. Or perhaps, they were dragons and not snakes. But if they were dragons, why were they like this? Everyone in the 5 dragon cities had the same vision as Long Chen. They were amazed when they saw the whirlpool. Long Chen was wondering if he should go into the whirlpool. Perhaps, the place with the true secret was inside. But it came with risks. After all, no one knew what would happen if they went in. So he hesitated for a while. Just then, he sensed the arrival of the 6 divine lords. His eyes turned cold. These guys must have received the order from the divine king. Looks like they're going to kill me. They must have chased after the snakes. To deal with them, Long Chen would not choose to let them surround him. The best way to defeat them was to take them down one by one. Therefore, at this moment, he escaped into the river of time. In just a short while, the 6 divine lords with aggressive auras arrived in the vicinity. The sacred martial fire god looked around, his eyes blazing. He said angrily, "That aborigine isn't here?" "No. I felt his aura just now. He escaped quickly. We have to chase after him. He disappeared all of a sudden. I remember that he has a rule that allows him to hide himself. Perhaps he is still nearby. Everyone, be careful. He definitely wants to defeat us one by one. We cannot give him the chance to do so." Sir God Phantom shook her head and looked around suspiciously. She said, "If he had escaped, we should have been able to sense his movements." After being injured by Long Chen last time, the little girl in the black short skirt was also very angry. The 6 divine lords were on their guard and prepared to attack. The mysterious underworld beast said suddenly, "I have an idea." "Quick, use it," the sacred martial fire god urged. He couldn't wait any longer. The mysterious underworld holy beast didn't say anything and actually used the mysterious underworld sea on the group of light shadow snakes that were crawling over. In an instant, countless snakes were crushed before they could reach the white whirlpool. He destroyed the snakes in front of Long Chen. Long Chen and they knew that the snakes might be related to the dragon. The dragon was their enemy and Long Chen's partner. With such pressure, Long Chen would definitely come out. The mysterious underworld beast's method was effective. It could even infuriate Long Chen. Despicable. Long Chen cursed under his breath and revealed himself in front of them. His eyes were calm and his gaze was cold. His tall body stood in front of the white vortex, and his divine power rolled out. Divine Lords, I didn't expect to meet you so soon. Seeing that Long Chen had really appeared, the 6 divine lords acted as though they were facing a great enemy. All of them stared at Long Chen with bloodshot eyes. They were already prepared to attack at the same time to kill Long Chen. As for how to kill him, they had already thought of a joint method before they arrived. This time, they absolutely could not let Long Chen succeed. The godly monarchs have ordered that you die a tragic death. The sacred martial fire god said coldly. The godly monarchs of hell? Long Chen smiled. He hadn't taken revenge for Lingxi yet, but the sacred martial fire god was eager to kill him. All the godly monarchs. You have violated the celestial race's taboo. Not only did you violate the rules, but you also escaped and injured us. You have committed a heinous crime. The godly monarchs have jointly sentenced you to death. If you surrender, you might be pardoned. If you resist, your crime will be increased. The sacred martial fire god wanted to suppress Long Chen's arrogance. Long Chen smiled. In that case, this was really a fight to the death. At this time, showing mercy would be cruel to oneself. Originally, he had not really decided to send these 6 divine monarchs to the Western Paradise. It seemed that this was the time. Then let's attack. Let me see what the so-called 6 ultimate realm divine lords are capable of. Or is it the same as last time? None of you can withstand a single move from me? Shut up. The divine lords were slightly angry. They spread out but maintained a certain distance from each other. Then, they attacked Long Chen. Besiege. Long Chen was really looking forward to this battle. That's right. He liked challenging battles. It wouldn't be challenging to face each of them alone. Although the current situation was very difficult, it had stimulated his fighting spirit. I want to kill a divine lord. Let's start now. The conflict was already irreconcilable. Just as Long Chen was about to use the peerless dragon-slaying blade in one hand and the time rules in the other, the white vortex behind him suddenly sped up. Its speed instantly increased by a few hundred times, producing a terrifying suction force. Long Chen was right in front of him, but he wasn't prepared at all. He was swallowed by the vortex. It was the same for the 6 divine lords. Just as they made their move, their bodies seemed to be caught by a monster and pulled towards the vortex. The main reason was that they weren't mentally prepared. Otherwise, they would probably be able to hold on. After Long Chen, the 6 divine lords also crashed into the snow-white vortex and disappeared one by one. Only then did the high-speed rotation of the vortex come to a stop. The group of light shadow snakes continued to head towards the vortex. There was a beginning and an end. The entire divine planet of destiny returned to its previous peace. Sacred Martial. The divine king of hell suddenly lost contact with the sacred martial fire god and the others. What's going on? Weren't we going to fight with Long Chen? Why did they suddenly disappear? Just when they were confused, the sacred martial fire god's voice finally came. Divine King, we've reached the inside of the divine planet of destiny. It's very shocking here. We'll kill Long Chen first, then we'll tell you in detail. Inside? The divine planet of destiny was so big, the inside must be very big as well. Hold on, we're about to break this barrier. The divine king of hell said with certainty. Chapter 2701. Long Chen was in great danger when he swallowed the white vortex just now. I didn't expect the white vortex to change so suddenly. Luckily, I'm fine. This should be the inner part of the divine planet of destiny. Long Chen was now in a gigantic tunnel. It was very wide, with a diameter of at least hundreds of thousands of meters. It was enough for him to fight with the 6 divine lords, but how deep was this tunnel? Long Chen wasn't sure either. When he looked down, he saw an endless abyss. He couldn't see the end at all. The 6 divine lords were scattered in front of him. They were also sizing up the bottomless pit in shock. It was not pitch black in here because there were small snakes that emitted white fluorescent light everywhere. There was one every 10 meters. Unlike the white snakes outside, they did not run. Instead, they curled up and closed their eyes. It was as though they were in a deep sleep as they floated in the middle of the bottomless pit. There were sleeping little snakes everywhere. Looking down, they were densely packed, and they were all emitting white radiance, like beautiful gems in the dark night. Before he could observe, Long Chen fought the 6 divine emperors again. In the current situation, they had to fight to the death. Killing intent spread among the 7 of them. Long Chen dared to face 6 ultimate divine emperors at the same time. In the eyes of the millions of dragon warriors in the 5 dragon cities, it was amazing. However, fighting here and outside was a huge restriction for Long Chen, and that was that there were white snakes everywhere, and those white snakes would shatter with a single touch. If they really fought, who knew what hundreds of thousands of little snakes would disappear, and Long Chen did not know what it meant for them to disappear. So he was in a lot of trouble. The 6 divine emperors looked at each other fiercely and approached Long Chen. Among them, Heavenly Master Di Hu, Xuanwu Holy Beast, and Sorcerer God had already transformed into their original forms. Just by showing their original forms, they crushed many little white snakes. The 3 human divine lords were in front of them, and each divine lord was basically in their best condition. Long Chen's eyes darted around. In this unfavorable situation, he could only think of one solution. Among the 6 divine monarchs, one of them was indeed very anxious. He was eager to avenge his humiliation, and that was the sacred martial fire god. The 6 divine monarchs had agreed to attack at the same time, but he still moved forward a little. Long Chen held the peerless dragon Salyer in his hand. His target was the sacred martial fire god. If it's the spirits of our ancestors, please forgive Long Chen for being presumptuous. He was full of respect for the dragon god. The battle was about to begin. Just as the sacred martial fire god was about to make his move, Long Chen was faster than him. He raised his saber and slashed it down at lightning speed. Time rupture. It was an easy move. This move could be said to be unstoppable by a final stage divine monarch. Time rupture was the most profound law of Long Chen's Tao of Time. The sacred martial fire god was filled with killing intent, but in the first clash, it was defeated by Long Chen. Of course, the other divine lords were already prepared. In a short instant, several nomological attacks came. Death Realm Dragon Gate. In the next moment, Long Chen was even faster. He rotated his hands and the Death Realm Dragon Gate opened. A huge dragon claw stretched out and the aura of the Death Realm surged out. The dragon claw had already grabbed the sacred martial fire god that was slashed by the time rupture and pulled it towards the Death Realm. If you don't want him to die, stop. In the blink of an eye, the sacred martial fire god was in front of the Death Realm Dragon Gate. A dignified final stage divine lord was defeated by Long Chen in one move. Moreover, Princess Biyao doesn't care about your life or death. The sacred martial fire god shouted angrily. Long Chen smiled faintly and said, "Don't be agitated. Everything can be discussed." "All right, I don't dare to kill you. I am a coward, how would I dare to kill you? Therefore, I can only hold you hostage and discuss with the other divine lords." The small action just now had caused many white snakes to disappear. Long Chen was very uncomfortable. It wasn't a good choice to fight here. This bottomless pit definitely led to other places. If there was a place to fight below, Long Chen wouldn't be polite. He had no other choice but to use this method. He said to the other divine lords, "Let's make a deal. In fact, my main purpose this time is to explore the divine planet of destiny alone. Moving the 5 dragon cities to my divine kingdom is also to better protect them. I don't have any evil intention to fight against you. Since the 6 of you are here, it is also a kind of fate. My deal is, I will return the sacred martial fire god to you, then we will not fight, and we will explore this bottomless pit together. What do you think?" The 5 divine lords looked at each other. Their current mission was to kill Long Chen, not explore the divine planet of destiny. But now, the sacred martial fire god's life was in his hands. Let's ask the divine king. They made their choice. Long Chen had a lot of time to wait for them to talk. During this time, the sacred martial fire god was extremely ashamed and angry. His face turned red. Every time he wanted to roar, Long Chen pressed the Death World Dragon Claw down, making him feel so much pain that he wanted to die. Looking at the red-faced Divine Lord, Long Chen couldn't help but think, "You will die, but not now. Don't be too anxious." What he said just now was naturally to tease them. He just wanted to find a place without the little white snake to fight. Long Chen didn't want to hurt them. After a while, the Divine Lord's discussion came to an end. Emperor Di Hu said, "All right, we agree to your request. As long as you return the sacred martial fire god to us, we are willing to explore with you. As for what happens next, wait until you go out and see the Divine King, then we will settle it again. If you perform well, the Divine King might say that they will forgive you." "Oh. That's great." Long Chen couldn't help but laugh. Without another word, he threw the sacred martial fire god back. He wasn't worried that the Divine Lord wouldn't keep his word. After all, if he could succeed once, he could succeed a second time. With the wish power of all beings, he had endless power. Then, he didn't bother with them and directly went down the bottomless pit. Long Chen. The sacred martial fire god regained his ability to move. He couldn't help but want to fight again, but this time, the other Divine Lord stopped him. "Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough?" Phantom God Lord said coldly. "What did you say?" The sacred martial fire god was infuriated. Phantom God Lord ignored him. The Divine Lords went down together and quickly caught up with Long Chen. Of course, they were worried that Long Chen would get something good first. The sacred martial fire god was furious, but the other 5 Divine Lords were very calm. It was as if everything was within their expectations. "Soul Hook, what happened?" the sacred martial fire god asked. Sir God Soul Captivating laughed and said to himself, "You should restrain yourself and suppress your anger. It's not good for our operation. You were too anxious this time. This isn't like you." The sacred martial fire god thought about it carefully. Indeed, he had been blinded by hatred and arrogance. He took a deep breath and said, "Tell me." Soul Hook God said, "The godly monarchs wanted to give up on you and fight to the death. After all, Long Chen should be afraid of those white snakes. Since he is afraid, we have a chance of success." Chapter 2702. Outside the divine planet of destiny. Now, the gods were far away from the planet. Something unprecedented happened on the divine planet of destiny. It shocked all the gods in the world, as well as the dragon sacrifice ceremony. The movements of the gods had always been loud. Even if people didn't want to know, they couldn't do anything about it. Long Chen and the gods became enemies. He escaped to the divine planet of destiny with the 5 dragon warriors from the dragon cities. Ever since Long Chen killed the Yellow Spring God and was imprisoned in the god's city of Hell, people seemed to have guessed that this day would come. They were familiar with Long Chen, and even had a feeling that they were intimately connected to him. Long Chen's fate was now inextricably linked to theirs. In the eternal sacred realm, most people were under the control of the gods and worshipped them. But in the dragon sacrifice continent, people didn't really have a good impression of the gods. Even though the ancient gods made this world stronger, they still had a close relationship with Long Chen. From all kinds of things. Judging from what had happened to them, they could vaguely sense something. The gods were targeting Long Chen most of the time. Now, all the gods, including the divine soldiers and generals, were outside the divine planet of destiny. They completely surrounded the place. Most of their gazes fell on the 4 god kings closest to the divine planet of destiny. Besides the god king of hell, the god king of light and the god king of star often showed up. There was another god king. The gods were more curious about this new god king. Most of their gazes fell on him. Everyone, step back. Let me try first. At this moment, the godly king spoke with a magnetic and charismatic voice. This voice naturally had the authority of a leader and king. Just his voice alone was enough to suppress the godly king of hell and the others, causing all the gods to listen to him with sincerity. Hearing the order, the gods all stepped back. They were full of expectation. Even the 3 god kings stepped back. Obviously, the new God King Inc. Desolation was going to make a move. With God King Inc. Desolation here, there should be no problem. Long Chen is so funny. He thought that we couldn't do anything to him after he escaped into the divine star of destiny. I didn't expect that he would be like a turtle in a jar. From the front, this God King Inc. Desolation was a handsome man. He was tall and burly, and he had a head of long black hair that was tied into a bun. He wore an ink-colored battle armor, and on his cape, there were thousands of lifelike beasts. His face looked as if it had been carved by a knife or a sword. It was extremely resolute, and his black eyes were devoid of any emotion. Deep and profound, he was born with a kind of king's divine might that made people submit to him willingly. Now, his black eyes were gazing at the barrier of the divine planet of destiny. His expression was solemn, as if he was making a decision. The Ink Desolation Divine King is a divine beast that cultivates authority, calamity, and karmic luck, the Ink Chilan. It's said that his ancestor is the descendant of a supreme divine dragon and a divine beast of the Tai divine realm. Although God King Ink Desolation had grown to such an extent, there was still room for growth. That's the shortest amount of time. The gods whispered among themselves, especially some of the female gods. They even fell in love with God King Ink Desolation. God King Ink Desolation was the most famous god among the returning gods. The Tai divine realm. The divine emperor is only at the absolute beginning divine realm. Now, there is not a single supreme god of the Tai divine realm. At this point, God King Ink Desolation made his move. How lucky. I didn't expect to see God King Ink Desolation's true body. The gods couldn't help but look forward to it. In the blink of an eye, the ball of lightning was already half the size of the god star of destiny. It had already gathered the terrifying power of the Chilan's tribulation. The Chilan's tribulation hit the god star of destiny. This was an unprecedented collision. The god kings of hell and the others had used their full strength, but they might not have been able to reach this level. In truth, the Ink Chilan had already used everything he had. A terrifying tremor descended. Bzzz. What could be seen with the naked eye was that when the Chilan's tribulation struck the barrier, it produced an incomparably violent shockwave. The entire transparent barrier shook like a dragonfly's wings, producing invisible waves. This was a huge impact to the gods. In that instant, even the gods were at a loss. After a while, the barrier stopped shaking. It doesn't seem to have broken, the gods watched in a daze. That's right. Although there was a relatively strong tremor, the barrier was still there. In other words, God King Ink Desolation, whom the gods had been looking forward to the most, had failed. God King Ink Desolation transformed into his human form and gathered with the other 3 god kings. The gods did not dare to speak, but they were still quite speechless. They had thought that they would be able to teach Long Chen a lesson soon enough. However, the God Kings were not too dispirited. God King Ink Desolation said, "If the 3 of you together couldn't break it, it's normal that I couldn't. This time, let's try again." The other three nodded as well. Seeing that the four god kings were going to attack at the same time, the gods instantly turned from dispirited to extremely excited. These were four god kings. Among the returning gods, these four were the strongest and the leaders. They each had important resources bestowed by the god emperor and demon emperor. Since the four of them were going to attack, they had a higher chance of success. However, the commotion would definitely be even greater. Therefore, when the Hell God King glared at them, the gods knew that it was time for them to leave. Therefore, the gods left happily. Some even returned to the Eternal God domain. On the Eternal God domain. All of you, protect the living beings. The Radiant God King gave the order. If they attacked, the living would inevitably be affected. Yes. The gods guarded the Eternal God domain and the Dragon Sacrificial Continent respectively. This time, God King Ink Desolation will definitely take out that terrifying orbital-grade creation artifact. Definitely. We have so many primordial God Kings, but he's the only one who has an orbital-grade creation artifact. Even some perfected God Kings don't have one. When they thought of the orbital-grade creation artifact, they were even more confident. Many gods were on the Eternal God domain, watching the movements of the faraway divine planet of destiny. When everything was ready, the divine planet of destiny would begin. The gods held their breaths. In their eyes, the divine planet of destiny was just a tiny dot. As for the four god kings, they couldn't see them at all. Time passed quietly. The gods' hearts raced. They were extremely excited. Among the gods, Biyao was the quietest one. The white-haired Biyao was even more terrifying than when she had golden hair. Now, the gods didn't dare to approach her. In the next moment, the faraway divine planet of destiny shone with all kinds of lights. The lights flashed, and the entire northern starfield was plunged into chaos. The gods had to use all their strength to block the attack from such a far distance. The impact this time was too great. The combined strength of four god kings is indeed terrifying. It would be ridiculous if the divine planet of destiny didn't break this time. Even if it didn't, Long Chen would probably faint from the impact. Even with the protection of the eternal obsidian, the entire eternal god domain was still trembling, and earthquakes were occurring. A raging storm lasted for a long time. All kinds of terrifying power of rules swept over, and the gods' defenses couldn't withstand it. Some godly soldiers and godly generals who got too close were seriously injured. But the divine planet of destiny was so far away from the eternal god domain, and the fact that even godly generals were injured showed just how much power the four god kings had used. What followed was dead silence. They did it. Let's go. The four god kings definitely won't let Long Chen escape. The commotion gradually died down. The gods were full of anticipation as they rushed back to the divine planet of destiny. They couldn't help but cheer along the way. By the time they reached the divine planet of destiny, almost all the commotion had died down. What they saw was that the four god kings were still outside the divine planet of destiny, and the divine planet of destiny was still shrouded in smoke. God kings, the gods stood in place, dumbfounded. The four god kings didn't make a move to capture Long Chen, which meant that even if the four of them worked together, they would still fail. As expected, they saw the god kings' displeased expressions. The gods fell silent, their faces burning. They felt like they'd been played by Long Chen. The more they couldn't break the barrier, the more pleased Long Chen would be. At that moment, Biyao appeared behind the four god kings. The god king of hell looked back at her and said, "Princess, it's time to ask the god king. With his permission, we'll use the eternal obsidian." As long as they used the eternal obsidian, there wouldn't be any problems. Chapter 2703. The other gods found it hard to accept that King Ink Desolation had failed the first time. Now that the four godly kings had teamed up and launched a devastating attack, they still hadn't succeeded. From this, one could see how terrifying this barrier was. Moreover, King Ink Desolation had used a sequence-level creation artifact. Although he was unwilling to be fooled by Long Chen, there was nothing he could do. He was furious. But in the end, the show was on. The Eternal Opal. A 7th grade, Eternal level Chaos treasure. This was a rare treasure in all the worlds. Only the sovereigns of all worlds and the godly emperors could possess it. Most godly emperors didn't even have one. The owner of the Eternal Opal was godly Emperor Jun. He hadn't been in possession of the Eternal Opal for a long time, but it had undoubtedly increased Di Jun's power and his terrifying status in all the worlds. Although the Eternal Opal was far away from him, Di Jun was the true controller of the Eternal Opal. That was why the other gods weren't worried that the Eternal Opal would be taken away. They had Di Jun's permission to use the Eternal Opal for the time being, but Di Jun was the one doing the work. They were only supporting him. That was why they had to ask for Di Jun's permission. Inside the divine planet of destiny, they naturally trusted the 6 ultimate godly lords. However, the godly kings couldn't bear it anymore. They couldn't bear to be fooled by a young god. This had a huge impact on their prestige, status, reputation. At that moment, the battle between the 6 ultimate Sir Gods and Long Chen had reached a crucial stage. Hearing the godly king of hell's words, Biyao left alone. The other gods didn't dare to follow because she wanted to ask Di Jun. Di Jun was still very far away. But the other gods were looking forward to it. They knew how terrifying the Eternal Opal was. Even a 5th grade sequence level artifact had different levels. For example, King Ink Desolation's creation artifact wasn't as good as the god-slaying sword when he was at full victory. The 6th grade mixed prime was even more different. Those who could use mixed prime were basically the sovereigns of all worlds at the godly emperor level. In fact, Long Chen had discovered a rather crucial thing. Dream, death, chaos, creation, order, chaos, eternity, primordial beginning, origin. Among them, he was very familiar with death, creation, order, chaos, origin, and eternity. When he learned that the 4th ancestral dragon was the chaos origin fate dragon, he vaguely understood that these 9 levels were actually named after 9 of the 10 great ancestral dragons. The ancient blood spirit dragon was ranked 3rd from the bottom, corresponding to the death grade, which was ranked 2nd. Its own law of slaughter was death. The Tai Chi spirit dragon was 5th from the bottom, corresponding to the 4th creation stage. It was the dragon of life and creation. The divine path heart refinement dragon was the 6th from the bottom. It corresponded to the level 5 order dragon. It was the dragon of morality and order. The chaotic origin fate dragon was the 7th from the bottom, which corresponded to the primordial chaos level. This was even more obvious. The void Aeon dragon was ranked 8th from the bottom and 3rd from the top, corresponding to the eternal rank. It was the eternal dragon of time and eternity. In fact, the 10th ancestral dragon was not taken into account, and the 9th ancestral dragon's characteristics were used as the first of the 9 levels, and so on. Long Chen managed to obtain some crucial information. Even if she wanted to save Long Chen now, the god kings wouldn't listen to her. She suddenly thought of a saying, "The evils we bring upon ourselves are the hardest to bear." Long Chen, for the past 2 years, he was the only person in her heart. Even though she hated him so much, she still felt terrible at this moment. It was impossible for Di Jun not to see her white hair. In her eyes, this father of hers was indeed much more terrifying than God Emperor Wang Qing. Now, she couldn't contact her mother either. After a while, the 4 god kings had already approached the Eternal Opal, and the gods had all left the divine planet of destiny. If they continued to stay here, they would definitely be affected and might even lose their lives. The entire dragon sacrificial continent was in a shocking silence. The living beings still didn't know that they were going to use the Eternal Opal to kill Long Chen. They still didn't know if the gods had succeeded in their previous attack. They only knew that Long Chen was still alive. To them, the Eternal Opal was the new sun. At this moment, when they raised their heads, they could already see 4 dots appearing at the 4 corners of the Eternal Opal. This primal chaos treasure that had caused the entire dragon sacrificial continent to undergo a huge change was now undergoing slight changes. As the eternal opal moved, even the dragon sacrificial continent moved. For a moment, even with the suppression of the eternal opal, it felt as though the sky was falling and the earth was splitting apart. It's time to end this. The gods revealed satisfied smiles. Chapter 2704. While Biyao was asking Emperor Dijun for instructions, inside the divine planet of destiny, as they went deeper and deeper into the pit, they finally reached a place where there were fewer and fewer white snakes. But even so, Long Chen could see that there were millions or even tens of millions of snakes. There were traces of dragons on their bodies. From them, Long Chen found the same feeling as the divine dragons in the curse world. Perhaps they were also cursed and sealed by the white shackles. Empty and lost. That was why Long Chen didn't dare to disturb them, let alone destroy them. Finally, he saw the bottom of the pit. It seemed to be a pale white altar. It was at the bottom, blocking the way. Or in other words, this was the real bottom. The pale white altar was huge, hundreds of thousands of meters wide. It was almost the same size as the tunnel. The altar was the place with the least number of white snakes. Long Chen and the 6 divine monarchs saw the pale white altar at the same time. If this was the end, it meant that what Long Chen was looking for, or the secret of the divine planet of destiny, was here. Because this was the only strange place on the divine planet of destiny. The 6 ultimate divine monarchs continued to go deeper to compete with Long Chen and find a suitable opportunity. In their eyes, Long Chen was stupid to think that there was still room for negotiation. The 6 of you, it seems that we have to go down and take a look. I promise that if we find anything, we will share it with the gods. I hope the 6 of you don't misunderstand. I came here to explore, not to escape. Long Chen glanced at the altar. The 6 divine monarchs were rushing to the altar, but he wasn't in a hurry. First of all, this pale white altar was very old. It was full of mottled traces of time, and there were even deep cracks on it. The patterns on it seemed to be dragon scales. They were simple and neat. Most importantly, there were a total of 8 coiling dragon pillars in the 8 directions of the altar. The coiling dragon pillars were extremely thick, and there was a jade-like dragon coiling around each of them. They were white and huge. Regardless of the details, these 8 jade dragons were vivid and lifelike. They coiled around the pillar, guarding the altar. Long Chen recalled the black jade dragon head. These 8 jade stone divine dragons were slightly larger than the black dragons of the curse realm. They were also thicker and more mysterious. Long Chen's intuition was that they would definitely awaken and attack. It's naturally a good thing that you've come to this realization. The sacred martial fire god sneered. The 6 of them were one step ahead and landed on the 9 altars one by one. They understood that it would be very difficult to snatch Long Chen's floating life grass. However, they were already preparing the eternal incandescent stone outside, so they were very relieved. As long as they could restrain Long Chen, the godly kings would arrive after a while. At that time, Long Chen would die without a burial. What the hell is this place? I don't know. There's no way out. What secret could this altar have? The 6 godly kings looked at the 8 coiling dragon pillars. This was the only thing that was different. Long Chen surveyed his surroundings. There weren't many white snakes, so it was time for him to make a move. He deeply understood the thinking of life. Showing mercy to others now was the same as taking his own life. Just as he was prepared to fight to the death on this altar and kill them one by one, he suddenly felt a change in the altar. Before he landed on the altar, the 8 coiling dragon pillars seemed to tremble. All of a sudden, the jade stone divine dragons opened their shining eyes. Light erupted, and the entire altar was enveloped in white light. That light shot out of the bottomless pit. Within the light, Long Chen saw 8 huge snow-white divine dragons. They left the pillars and advanced coldly. Their targets were the 6 final realm godly monarchs. It had to be said that these 8 snow-white divine dragons were much stronger than the black dragons of the Curse realm. First, it was in terms of size. Second, it was in terms of power. This was a power that even Long Chen was wary of. They had terrifying killing intent. Once they landed on the altar, they would become their enemies. Be careful. The gods were engulfed in the light. They immediately knew that they were in danger. Suddenly, they sensed 8 killing intents coming from 8 different directions. When they looked closely, they saw 8 ferocious white dragons charging at them. Let's leave first, Phantom God Monarch said. But at this time, there were already godly monarchs fighting the white dragons. They couldn't leave even if they wanted to. This was their first battle, but they could immediately feel that the white dragon's battle prowess was very close to that of a final realm godly monarch. Most importantly, they could not die. Even if they were crushed, they could quickly reform their bodies. Just like the Curse realm's black dragons. Unable to escape, they fell into the white dragon's vortex of attacks. Celestial Venerate Dihu, Mysterious Underworld Sacred Beast, and Black Voodoo all transformed into their true forms and fought the white dragons. It was extremely tragic. It was hard to tell who was fighting who. Long Chen, come and help, the sacred martial fire god said angrily. All right. Long Chen smiled. He transformed into a primordial spiritual blood dragon and charged down. The sacred martial fire god was facing 2 white dragons. When Long Chen arrived, he attracted the attention of the 2 white dragons. But besides his color, Long Chen was not much different from the white dragons. The white dragons only noticed him for a moment before continuing to attack the sacred martial fire god. Sacred Tao Killing Fist. The sacred martial fire god was enraged. He punched and shattered the white dragon's lower jaw. Then, he shouted at Long Chen, "Fool, attack." Long Chen heard him and charged forward. He used Eternal Instant, but he did not freeze the 2 white dragons. Instead, he froze the sacred martial fire god. Suddenly encountering the power of time, the sacred martial fire god's movement stopped. The white dragon closest to him was extremely swift and violent. It almost tore the sacred martial fire god in half. Long Chen. The sacred martial fire god let out a shrill scream. He was not Long Chen's match. With the addition of 2 white dragons, he was dead for sure. He did not expect Long Chen to be so bold. Just a moment ago, he was still acting like a coward in front of him. Now, he realized that he had underestimated Long Chen's determination and ruthlessness. See you in the next life. These were the last words that Long Chen left for the sacred martial fire god. When the white dragons wanted to continue fighting, Long Chen charged forward and used the 10,000 death claws. The sacred martial fire god was heavily injured again. Of course, he was a divine monarch. This kind of injury would not kill him completely. As long as there was a trace of it left, he could come back from the dead. Long Chen, you will die a horrible death. The sacred martial fire god was mad. After being struck by the 10,000 death claws again, he would rather die than live. He had no strength left. Who are you talking about? Long Chen had been waiting for this moment for a long time. He hated this noisy fellow the most. Now that the sacred martial fire god was heavily injured, he did not say a word. He pressed down on the sacred martial fire god and threw him into the divine nation. Mo Xiaolang had been waiting for too long. Fire Forbidden Zone. When the sacred martial fire god entered the god nation, he was swallowed by the Fire Forbidden Zone. Amidst his miserable scream, he was swallowed by Mo Xiaolang. With this ultimate divine monarch, Mo Xiaolang could probably break through to the divine monarch realm. The white dragons and Long Chen were a good match. After dealing with the sacred martial fire god, the 2 white dragons attacked Dihu and Xuanwu respectively. Among the remaining 5 deities, 3 of them were fighting against the 2 white dragons. Just the two white dragons alone were enough to put them in danger. They saw Long Chen throw the sacred martial fire god into the god nation. Although they did not see him being swallowed, they knew it clearly. Their hearts trembled. Terror. The gods hurriedly reported the news to their superiors. When the divine monarchs and the others heard it, their faces turned ashen. They were preparing the eternal opal and were even more determined now. Looks like this kid is going to fight to the death. It's all our fault for not making a decision earlier. If we had not acted, the remaining 5 ultimate divine monarchs would have died. There's no other way. It's not that easy to use the eternal opal. The 4 divine monarchs trembled with anger. The deities who heard the news were about to explode. They roared in anger. It was a miracle that the deities had been forced to this extent by Long Chen. The sacred martial fire god would never be Long Chen's final destination. Quick, run. Charge. Empyrean D who roared. Even though he was entangled by 2 white dragons, he was still able to escape. He knew that Long Chen was afraid that those small white snakes would be destroyed, so he knew that rushing forward was the only way to survive. In his opinion, Long Chen was incomparably crazy and terrifying at this time. This is the real him. Resolute and decisive. He knew from the start that we would not show him mercy. Therefore, he never thought of showing mercy. He just wanted to bring us here. The deities were shocked. Go back. Long Chen instantly appeared in front of Di Hu. Chapter 2705. When the news that the sacred martial fire god and heavenly sovereign Di Hu had been killed by Long Chen spread, the gods were in an uproar. Their faces turned red, and they were so angry that they wanted to vomit blood. In their eyes, although Long Chen had created many miracles, he wasn't one of them. They had never thought that he could fight against them. Killing the immortal Emperor Netherworld was already beyond the gods' imagination. Bringing the 5 dragon cities to the divine planet of destiny was already a suicide mission. Now, he was even crazier. He didn't even know that the 4 immortal kings were using the eternal opal, but he was still determined to fight against the gods. Now that the sacred martial fire god and heavenly sovereign Di Hu were dead, they could offend both humans and monsters. There was no turning back. Now, the gods only had one thought for Long Chen, and that was to let Long Chen taste the pain that he feared. Hold on. As long as the eternal opal shines, planet destiny will be broken, and you will be able to come out. The gods couldn't help but roar in anger. At first, they didn't worry about the 6 divine lords. Even a divine king would be afraid of them if they joined forces. There was no reason that Long Chen could kill them all in a short time. Of course, the gods didn't expect the appearance of the coiling dragon pillar and the white dragon. That damned beast. Shameless. The gods looked in the direction of planet destiny and trembled with anger. But they didn't expect that they were the ones who forced Long Chen into this state. Long Chen was never a person who would sit and wait for death. So, he fought back. From the moment the divine king of hell tried to assassinate Lingxi, he was destined to show his ruthless side. It didn't matter if these gods were the ancient ancestors of the dragon sacrificial continent or not. Under the entanglement of the white dragon, only Sir God Soul Captivating, Sir God Phantom Shadow, Sacred Beast Black Tortoise, and Black Sorcerer were left. They had witnessed the sacred martial fire god and celestial master Di Hu's end. Fear, which they had not felt in thousands of years, rushed into their hearts. They had never thought that Long Chen would be able to threaten their lives. Defeating and killing were 2 different concepts. Back then, Divine Lord Netherworld might have died because there was only one of him. But now, there were 6 of them. If the 6 ultimate Sir Gods were to die in the hands of Long Chen, it would be the biggest event in the history of the primordial deities. That was because such a thing had never happened before. Think of a way. Sir God Soul Hooking's face was pale to begin with. At that moment, he was even paler. Facing 2 white dragons, he was close to his limit. Unexpectedly, Long Chen was keeping a close eye on him. Whoosh! In an instant, Long Chen appeared in front of him. He controlled time and the chaotic temporal sea. The 4 final realm god monarchs were all under the control of the chaotic temporal sea. The godly monarchs are asking us to escape quickly. The mysterious underworld beast roared. As long as they left the altar, the white dragon might not be able to catch up with them. Moreover, they still had a way to threaten Long Chen. However, under the control of the chaotic temporal sea, time was messed up. One was fast while the other was slow. Sometimes, their speed increased sharply. Sometimes, it was like they were stuck in a quagmire. Long Chen appeared in front of Sir God's soul hooking in an instant. He slashed down and clashed with Sir God's soul hooking scythe. The collision of the 2 creation divine weapons made Sir God's soul hooking tremble. The creation divine weapon almost fell out of his hands. Because of the collision with Long Chen, a white dragon's sharp claws pierced through it. Ah! Sir God's soul hooking screamed. Long Chen was now a killer. He began his path of revenge. What was going on? Was Li Xuanji's master really the dark goddess? Or was the dark goddess related to the sacred remains beneath the deity ocean? Phantom God Lord was very decisive. Without another word, she had chosen to burn herself. In that instant, her divine power was about to explode. If that happened, even Long Chen would be injured. Very few gods would use such a method to commit suicide. Since she was seeking death, Long Chen would not hold back. She didn't want Devil Wa to devour her, but in her dreams. No matter what the primordial gods were, Long Chen was tied to the fate of billions of people. If he showed mercy, it would be the same as being vicious to the billions of people. Whoosh! Chaotic time reverse. With one slash, time broke. His speed was much faster than Phantom God Lord's. Under the effect of time breaking, no matter how much power she had gathered, it dissipated in an instant. Long Chen had destroyed her power. Under the effects of various divine dragon laws, Phantom God Lord had lost all her combat strength. Die. But at this time, Phantom God Lord did not forget to counterattack. Soi Eon was at a crucial moment. Perhaps Phantom God Lord could help her recover a considerable amount of power. Long Chen hesitated no more. He gave her the last divine lord. This time, she and Mo Xiaolang had reaped a bountiful harvest. Mo Xiaolang was more efficient. A mere sacred martial fire god had helped him break through to the divine lord realm. Great essence deity realm. He had even absorbed a portion of the sacred martial fire god's laws, especially those of the divine lords. Mo Xiaolang had changed a lot. Soi Eon was even more so. Her metamorphosis was unimaginable. Long Chen gradually realized that the power she had recovered, coupled with her black hole laws, had surpassed his. Soi Eon, who had been the most inconspicuous, had become the strongest in their team. Of course, the combined godly power of the 4 of them could only activate it. The one truly controlling the eternal opal was still the godly emperor in the distant Taihao region. You 3, if we can't break it this time, we won't have the face to face the godly emperor and our other brothers and sisters. The godly king of hell shouted in a deep voice. The 4 of them were almost engulfed by the light of the eternal opal. Now, the eternal opal was the most dazzling thing in the entire dragon sacrificial continent. It was even more distant than the sun. What it released wasn't heat, but the spirit of creation, the source of all things. Now that the eternal opal was shaking, everyone immediately paid attention. Boom boom boom. The eternal opal was like the core of the entire dragon sacrificial continent. When the eternal opal was shaking, the dragon sacrificial continent also started shaking. Therefore, a huge ravine split open on the ground, and a large number of beasts and cultivators fell into it. All kinds of storms, flames, and disasters were everywhere. Space distorted and tore apart, swallowing a large number of living creatures. For a moment, the entire dragon sacrificial continent was almost about to collapse. What's going on? Oh my God! As the eternal opal was shaking, the dragon sacrificial continent, which had already become incomparably stable, actually showed signs of returning to its previous state. This made everyone deeply aware that once the eternal opal was lost, the dragon sacrificial continent would probably instantly return to its original state, and it might even be destroyed. Because of this, their hearts became even colder. Especially after many people saw their loved ones and friends being swallowed by this collapsing world. Unknowingly, they had a new faith in Longchen. This unforeseen event made many people firmer their faith in Longchen. But it was useless. Under the expectations of all the divine dragons, the eternal opal was truly activated. The stone in the sky that was like a bright sun suddenly emitted a resplendent light, instantly enveloping the entire dragon sacrificial continent. This light was very gentle and didn't hurt anyone, but it also covered everyone's vision, including the vision of all the gods. For a moment, everyone was immersed in the light, and it was as though time had stopped. After an unknown period of time, this light finally began to dissipate, and the trembling dragon sacrificial continent also began to stabilize. The hearts of the gods raced, and they all rushed toward the divine planet of destiny. Among them, the 4 godly kings were right in front. They were more nervous than anyone else. Had they broken through the divine planet of destiny? Rumble. When the light completely dissipated, the gods could feel everything. A loud bang resounded, and a powerful repulsive force covered the sky and earth, striking the gods. What's going on? The gods were simply dumbfounded. What they saw was that an incomparably huge planet had actually appeared in front of them. It was tens of thousands of times larger than the previous divine planet of destiny. Such a huge gray planet suddenly appeared outside the dragon sacrificial continent, and it even had a terrifying gravity. The changes brought about by this in a short period of time were immeasurable. When they saw the huge planet in the northern sky, almost everyone was stunned. What is this? Such a thought appeared in the minds of countless people. A huge world appeared next to the dragon sacrificial continent. This was a gray planet. To most of the people on the dragon sacrificial continent, this huge gray planet covered half of the sky, and it was countless times larger than the eternal sacred realm. This kind of shock could not even be described with words. Even if one stood on the eternal sacred realm, one could see half of the sky covered by this gray planet. But fortunately, this gray divine planet of destiny did not harm the eternal sacred realm or the dragon sacrificial continent. After it appeared, it actually deviated from the direction of the dragon sacrificial continent. The gray planet in everyone's eyes also became smaller and smaller, only stopping when it occupied about a quarter of the sky. Apart from the visual changes in the sky, there were no other effects for the time being. In fact, the gods could see that the divine planet of destiny had already moved to a position very far away from the dragon sacrificial continent. From afar, if the dragon sacrificial continent was a piece of paper, then the divine planet of destiny was a small ball beside it. The gods were not too clear about what was going on, and there were not many people who knew that this was the divine planet of destiny. But the gods were wild with joy, because the barrier of the divine planet of destiny had finally been broken. Now that the real divine planet of destiny had appeared, although it was beyond their expectations, it did not matter. Their main goal was to kill Longchen, and then explore the mysteries of the divine planet of destiny. Although they might not be able to kill him, it was certain that Longchen would embark on a tragic path from now on. All the gods will stay on the dragon sacrificial continent, the 4 of us will go and capture Longchen. The deity king of hell ordered. The gods originally wanted to rush forward, but after hearing the deity king of hell's words, they stopped, but they were also very excited. To be honest, the 4 deity kings had already used up a lot of energy to activate the eternal opal once, but with their abilities, capturing Longchen was not a big problem. But there was also someone who did not listen, and that was Biyao. She turned a deaf ear to the deity king's words, her graceful figure following behind the 4 deity kings, her face cold, as if she could not help but want to see Longchen repent in front of her, begging her to forgive him. If he is willing to repent, I might be able to forgive him. Biyao coldly snorted, thinking in her heart. But the 4 deity kings were still very fast, and she could only chase with all her might. Of course, the deity kings caught up to her, but they had no way to stop her. Meanwhile, the dragon sacrificial continent was in an uproar. Almost everyone with consciousness was paying attention to this scene. They vaguely understood that the gods seemed to have succeeded, and that Long Chen was going to be in trouble. According to the deity kings, they followed some strange white snakes into a white whirlpool, and Long Chen is in there. Looking from afar, it was easy to see the huge group of white snakes. The 4 god kings were rushing towards the group of white snakes. As long as they followed the snake group, no matter how big Planet Destiny was, they would be able to find Long Chen in no time. This time, we can't let him escape. Moreover, we have to punish him severely. 7 ultimate realms Sir gods have died. This matter has been blown out of proportion. Now, no one can escape from the responsibility. As for how he should be punished, it should be up to the deity kings. But they would definitely not let Long Chen have an easy time. As soon as they approached the planet of destiny, their speed was greatly reduced, so they could only find the entrance of the whirlpool from afar, and then quickly descend. Found it, it's here. They went all the way to the back of the planet of destiny. If they went any closer, they would not be able to use this speed. The reason why Long Chen took so long was because he was on the surface of the planet of destiny. Go in. Without saying a word, the 4 deity kings rushed into the white whirlpool. Today was 2:00, 3:00, 5:00 tomorrow. No matter what appeared, he had to rush down. But he did not expect that time would stop here. Above, 4 terrifying godly king level killing intents had already descended, and the 4 berserk godly kings burst out with terrifying speed and swooped down. Long Chen, don't think of leaving. If you continue to run, you will only add to your crimes. The Hell Godly King's berserk voice resounded. He had the most contact with Long Chen, and at this moment, he was also the most furious. A total of 7 final realm god monarchs had died in his hands. From now on, even the entire dragon sacrificial continent would not have anyone at the great essence god realm final realm. As expected of godly kings, every one of them was a super expert who could defeat the encirclement of 6 final realm god monarchs head-on. In just a flash, they had already arrived above Long Chen. The 4 godly kings looked down from above with boundless divine might. Their eyes stared at Long Chen, and the pressure was so heavy that it even caused Long Chen to be unable to move. Among the 4 godly kings, Long Chen had seen Hell Godly King often. He wore a black robe, his long hair fluttered in the wind, and his face was as white as paper. He had also seen Radiance Godly King and Starry Sky Godly King before. The only one he had not seen before was Dark Desolation Godly King. This person had a divine dragon aura on him, and it was even denser than Starry Sky Godly King's, making it more revered. When these 4 people gathered together, Dark Desolation Godly King was like the king among them. Be it his gaze or divine might, he was more terrifying than the other 3. Soon after, another person came down from above, landing not far behind the 4 godly kings. It was Biyao, who had risked her life to catch up. In the god side, she was now the strongest expert below the godly kings. The situation suddenly became urgent. The millions of dragon warriors in the god nation couldn't help but hold their breaths. They were worried about the future of themselves and Long Chen, and even the descendants of the dragons. He had also grasped the most important point, which was that after using the eternal opal, the 4 god kings were indeed lacking in strength. They were not in their peak condition. Therefore, with the black hole law blocking their way, they could not do anything. Princess. They were scared silly. The princess had been devoured? All of you stay here and don't move. If I discover you destroying this black hole, your precious princess will be torn to pieces and become a part of Demon Wa's power. In the midst of the chaos, Long Chen felt the power of a law. It was a kind of torrent that was enforced. Perhaps even the godly kings would be affected by this law. Boom! A new world suddenly appeared in Long Chen. Of course, this was the inside of Planet Destiny. Biyao was in the Divine Kingdom. Soi Eon had controlled her for a period of time. She was also quite dangerous. Although she was imprisoned, she was still very close to the godly king level. In the Divine Kingdom, she could easily kill a large number of dragon warriors. Therefore, when Long Chen came in, the first thing he did was to control her again. As for Soi Eon, Long Chen needed her help right now. Mo Xiaolang was different from Soi Eon. He wasn't recovering, he was growing. Therefore, he was still stabilizing his divine monarch level. He couldn't help for now. Big brother Long Chen, where are we? Soi Eon looked around curiously. Long Chen and Biyao did the same. First, Long Chen saw that the four godly kings didn't appear next to him. This meant that they couldn't come in, or perhaps they were somewhere else. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief. Then, he could look around. This was undoubtedly a mysterious world. First, Long Chen felt a strange law. It had many manifestations and filled the surroundings. Even now, Long Chen couldn't resist the suppression of this law. Under the suppression of all these laws, he probably couldn't use many of his abilities. We have become gods, but here, we are no different from mortals. Long Chen was deeply aware that, for example, his vision and senses were all suppressed by the rules. Although he could still exert his power, the damage he caused would also be suppressed by the rules. Anyway, all kinds of suppression made Long Chen feel that he was only at the level of the divine martial arts realm, and he could not even fly. Presumably, even the four godly kings couldn't resist such a mysterious and comprehensive law. If the four godly kings were here, they would definitely be shocked. With their might as godly kings, they were suppressed like mortals here. Looking up, the sky was pitch black. It seemed to be pressing down on them. The whole world was pitch black. Long Chen could only see or sense things within 100 meters around him. If there was something in the way, or if it was too far away, he couldn't see anything. This was a world that suppressed gods to mortals. Under the law, everything was like this. But Long Chen knew that the power of the laws they used didn't change. It was just that after they appeared, they were infinitely reduced in size. It was the mysterious law everywhere that made this happen. The divine star of destiny is indeed mysterious. The surrounding law must be destiny. This was a world ruled by destiny. If they couldn't break through the rules of destiny, they would be ruled by it. Looking up, all he saw was a pale white building. Long Chen felt like he was in an endless labyrinth. Apart from these dilapidated buildings, pavilions, and palaces, there was almost nothing else. Long Chen walked around a few times and found that everything was the same. This was indeed a labyrinth. The law affected this place. Long Chen found that whenever he stepped through a random door, the space behind him would change, and when he stepped back, he would already be in a different world. Labyrinth of Destiny. Long Chen couldn't help but think that perhaps this place should be called this. He passed through the courtyards one by one. Sometimes, he would enter a large palace, but without exception, there was nothing inside. Moreover, as soon as he stepped through a door and exited the palace, he would already be in another courtyard. Although it was incomparably complicated, Long Chen could still find that the layout of each courtyard was different. In this labyrinth of destiny, the only things that were different were the carvings on the walls and pillars. That's right, the carvings were of pale white mystical dragons, just like the ones on the altar. However, this mystical dragon didn't move because of Long Chen's intrusion. Long Chen held on to Biyao tightly, he couldn't let her leave him even half a step. He guessed that if she and Biyao didn't have any physical contact when they crossed a door, the two of them might end up in different places. If that happened, he would let Biyao escape. The four god kings should have also entered this labyrinth of destiny, but they should have split up. And under the suppression of the law of destiny, they might not be as terrifying as before. They might be able to crush me. Once again, he had escaped danger. Fortunately, this labyrinth of destiny allowed Long Chen to escape from the trap again. But the problem was that if he never left this place, the God King would one day return and take his life and everything. Moreover, he was currently holding Biyao hostage. I need to find the core of this labyrinth of destiny. Only then will I be able to escape and obtain freedom. Long Chen was very clear in his heart. If he could bring all the dragon martial artists of the 5 great dragon cities to escape from Dragon Sacrificial Dragon Continent, that would also be a solution. But now, he was also worried. What if the deities made a move against the Dragon Sacrificial Dragon after he left? This was also a possibility. Of course, Long Chen wouldn't sit by and watch as this world was destroyed. So now, he still didn't have a real way out. Although you are temporarily safe, you won't be able to escape in the end. How about this, Long Chen? Let me go. Although the God King of Hell killed Lingxi, you also caused the fall of 7 God Kings. I can plead with my father for leniency and let him write it off. I'll let you leave this place. Right now, Biyao was very afraid of Long Chen. In order to escape, she could only think of a way herself. Long Chen said coldly, 7 God Kings' lives aren't enough. At the very least, you have to be included. After talking with Long Chen for a while, Biyao finally understood. Long Chen only knew that the God King of Hell killed Lingxi, but he didn't know that she was the mastermind. Not only you and the 5 great dragon cities, but the entire Dragon Sacrificial Dragon Continent will be destroyed. Believe me, Dragon Sacrificial Dragon Continent is still very useful to my father. Unless it's absolutely necessary, he won't destroy this place. I'm the most important to him. Let me go, and I can arrange for you to leave. At this moment, she suddenly came up with an idea. Long Chen stopped in his tracks. He looked at her coldly and said, "You only want to live now? When you used the heavenly incantation of indifference on me, did you ever think about me?" Biyao shook her head pitifully. "It's not like that. I have a lot of difficulties. I know you're still sad about Lingxi's matter, but I really like you. I also didn't ask you to take responsibility for the Dream Spirit Realm's matter." After turning into white hair, she hadn't shown this pitiful look in front of Long Chen for a long time. Long Chen wasn't a fool. He said, "The Dream Spirit Realm's matter was also planned by your mother, right? If I didn't wake up in the end, with my personality, I definitely wouldn't be so ruthless to you. To be honest, it's very hard for me to imagine what exactly you and your mother want. In order to get me, you're even willing to give up your chastity?" Just as he said this, there was movement not far away. Long Chen narrowed his eyes and saw the God King of Hell entering this courtyard from a door. However, Lingxi had actually undergone an even better transformation, so the Divine King of Hell only sneered, "Don't provoke me. The debt you owe, I'll use your life to repay it bit by bit. The next time we meet, it won't be like this." He was a little out of the Divine King of Hell's expectations. He was actually able to withdraw under such rage. The Divine King of Hell didn't dare to act because Biyao's life was in Long Chen's hands. In the blink of an eye, Long Chen pulled Biyao back to the door they came from. In reality, he was in another place, still in the labyrinth of destiny, but he didn't know where. The Divine King of Hell immediately gave chase, but he was still a step too slow. When he rushed through a door, he arrived at another place. Damn it, he escaped. The Divine King of Hell was extremely depressed. What kind of place is this? Even my voice can't travel out. As dignified divine kings, their voices could spread throughout the entire dragon sacrificial continent, but it couldn't travel out of any courtyard in this labyrinth of destiny. After getting rid of the Divine King of Hell, Long Chen's breathing was a little heavy, and his eyes were a little bloodshot. After thinking about it carefully, there were still many opportunities, so he let it go. He had already endured for so long, a little longer wouldn't matter. Boss, aren't you going to move your perverted hands away from this little girl's sensitive parts? Kitten popped out of the divine nation and laughed mischievously. After being teased like this, Long Chen's mood became a lot better, and he wasn't that nervous anymore. His death claw was indeed in this position, ready to pierce through her law core at any time, but there was still some contact. Biyao was currently lying on his body, and she was already weak to begin with. At this moment, her gaze was even more blurred. Let's go. Long Chen dragged her to the next door. There were labyrinths everywhere, and there were endless doors. Just where was the key point of this labyrinth of destiny? There must be an item of the ancestral dragon here. I must obtain it, otherwise, how can I rely on myself to kill this divine king of hell? That was his determination. He didn't care what status the divine kings had in the myriad worlds, he only wanted revenge. Now that he had already embarked on the path of defiance, he couldn't think about anything else anymore. Time gradually passed in this labyrinth of destiny, and he didn't even know how much time had passed. Even after a month had passed, he was still blindly wandering around here. In fact, on the dragon sacrificial continent side, all the deities were going crazy. Why was there still no news of the 4 divine kings and the princess going to capture Long Chen? It had already been a month. In a month's time, even the 4 divine kings couldn't handle Long Chen. That was simply impossible. It's already been a month, and the 4 divine kings and the princess have completely disappeared. There's also no response. Could something have happened to them? Impossible, those are 4 divine kings. In this dragon sacrificial continent, there can't possibly be anything that could cause them to have an accident. It's even more impossible for Long Chen. Then how do you explain the current situation? I think the divine kings must have encountered something important and have no time to bother with us. Maybe it's their mission this time. Maybe they've already found it. Let's not worry blindly and look after this dragon sacrificial continent first. All the deities were discussing. Now, all the deities of the monster race, the marine race, the witch race, and the human race were here. Even the strongest of the witch race, Black Sorcerer, had fallen. It was indeed rather embarrassing. A total of a few hundred deities were staring at the divine planet of destiny, but they didn't dare to approach it. Among the deities, the storm god monarch had an outstanding figure and became the focus of all the deities. She looked at all the living beings below and sneered, "These beasts are really disgusting. They've been causing trouble for so many days, can't they just stop? Isn't it just a Long Chen? Is it worth them shouting blindly?" Hearing what she said, all the deities hurriedly nodded in agreement. Because of the big matter of the divine planet of destiny, the 4 divine kings had been captured, and most of the living beings knew about it. With support, the storm god monarch gained courage. She descended on the dragon sacrificial continent and her voice spread across the world. Everyone, listen up. Long Chen killed deities and slaughtered his own kind. His crimes are extremely heinous and have angered the God King. The God King ordered us to kill him. Now that he has been executed and turned into ashes, don't make a fuss. If anyone dares to cause trouble again, don't blame me, the storm god monarch, for being impolite. Long Chen is already dead? The eternal life sacred realm and the dragon sacrificial continent, which were originally boiling, suddenly quieted down. Countless people raised their heads and stared at the godly spirit in the sky. After such a long time, Long Chen had already left a deep impression in their hearts as a hero. But now, he had actually been killed. He was such a young and handsome genius. What exactly had happened? From time to time, she would use her black hole law. Small black holes tore open wounds on the starry sky's godly monarch's body. The dignified starry sky's godly monarch was now in an extremely sorry state. Under the fierce battle of the dragons, no matter what attack he used, it would be quickly drowned. Long Chen. In a blink of an eye, the mighty starry sky god king was nearly torn apart. Starburst. Resplendent starry sky exploded, blasting more than 10 white dragons around him into pieces. Starry Sky God King heaved a sigh of relief, but the other divine dragons were still attacking, and those that were blasted apart were still reforming. To him, the biggest threat was Soyeon. Now that Starry Sky God King was under the three-sided black hole, he only had one place to escape. But in front of him was a dense horde of white dragons, covering the sky and earth, incomparably ferocious and murderous. Rumble. His long robe, which was a fortune divine artifact, was directly destroyed and turned into fragments. If they were outside the labyrinth of destiny, it would not be so easy to take care of Starry Sky God King. Whoosh! Soyeon's black hole law shredded one of his arms. This caused Biyao to be dumbfounded. This was a God King. So pathetic. Starry Sky God King's face was covered with blood. He was going crazy. No matter how crazy he was, the white dragons were endless, and he couldn't kill them all. Long Chen, I will make you suffer 10 times more in the future. Starry Sky God King roared in anger. He was too aggrieved. No matter how strong his attacks were, they were all suppressed by the destiny law. Don't talk big. Mighty Starry Sky God King, today is the day you fall. Long Chen looked at him coldly and couldn't help but sneer. That's right, he was equivalent to the war devil at his peak, one of the pinnacle existences in the myriad worlds. No matter where he went, he was a character who could summon the wind and summon the rain. But in the labyrinth of destiny, he had to kneel. Long Chen was mixed in with the group of dragons, with one hand controlling Biyao and the other holding onto the exceptional dragon Salyer. While the Starry Sky Divine King was busy dealing with the white dragon, his blade broke the time. Be careful. Biyao hurriedly reminded. Starry Sky Godly King managed to dodge some of the attacks, but he was still hit a little, causing him to stop instantly. His energy dissipated, and in an instant, the black hole and several mystical dragons pounced on him, tearing apart his other arm and one of his legs. Ah! A violent explosion occurred on the Astral King's body. His entire body was red, and his eyes were bloodshot. At this moment, he was in a frenzy and let out a series of roars. If he continued to fight, he might really die in battle. Previously, he was confident that as the Astral King, he was destined to crush Long Chen. However, he did not expect so many mystical dragons to appear. Now that he was in such a pitiful state, he could only escape. He roared angrily. Carrying the endless humiliation on his back, he broke through the white dragon's encirclement and rushed toward the other door. A dignified god monarch is scared witless? Long Chen's laughter made God King Starry Sky explode in anger. He really wanted to turn around and kill Long Chen, but in that instant, Soyeon's black hole caught up and tore off his last leg. Ah! Starry Sky Divine King was in a sorry state as he rushed into the door. Long Chen, I won't rest until you're dead. With one last roar, he disappeared. As expected, after he left, the white dragons did not chase after him. Perhaps because Long Chen was still here, they only followed Long Chen and did not pursue the enemy. However, if Long Chen chased after Starry Sky, he would not be able to catch up to Starry Sky because he would end up in another place, the Labyrinth of Destiny. However, this battle had given Long Chen an immense amount of confidence. He understood that unless the two god monarchs joined forces, with so many white dragons following him, he could completely do whatever he wanted in this Labyrinth of Destiny. Of course, he still had to find the secret of this place. Otherwise, as long as he left this place, he would still be nothing. In the future, that Divine Emperor June would have to return. After torturing Starry Sky Divine King, he felt much better. To be able to torment even a god monarch, he had indeed created a miracle. If it was Hell's god monarch just now, he would probably feel even better, but Long Chen wanted to use his own strength to defeat Hell's god monarch. He brought hundreds of white dragons and continued on his way. You seemed to be going against me just now, didn't you? Long Chen squinted and looked at Biyao. Biyao was even more afraid of him now. She could not help but tremble and said, No. I won't dare to do it again. Long Chen's death claw pierced into Biyao's snow-white skin, causing her to hover between life and death. Only then did he let go and said, "If you do this again, the consequences will be even worse." Biyao nodded like a chick pecking at rice. However, Long Chen helplessly realized that after being tortured and punished by him, her face was flushed and she was extremely shy, as if she was enjoying this feeling. He was holding her hostage, and the more their bodies touched, the more she leaned against him. "Are you crazy?" Long Chen could not take it anymore. Chapter 27:12. More than a month had passed, and there was still no movement from the planet of destiny. Some deities couldn't help but approach the planet. However, the gravity of the planet was too great. Those below the divine monarch level couldn't get close, so they could only watch from the outside. After all, the divine king had ordered them not to go near. Plus, there was no leader, so no one dared to disobey the order. However, the deities' expressions were getting more and more worried. What's going on? Of course, they didn't think that anything could have happened to the four divine kings. It was impossible. The biggest possibility was that Long Chen was hiding in a corner, and the four divine kings were chasing him. Don't worry, everyone. Maybe the four divine kings are just slowly dealing with him, making him suffer a fate worse than death. After all, he still has millions of dragon warriors with him. If the divine kings want to slowly kill these dragon warriors, it will take a very long time. These dragon warriors didn't trust us at all. It's time for them to be eliminated. The divine dragons have disappeared for an era. They're outdated, not worth mentioning at all. There's actually someone using their essence blood for cultivation. What a joke. In the past, the dragon sacrificial continent was famous. The dragons were invincible. But it was different now. It was a world of deities now. While the deities were discussing, Long Chen was still exploring inside the labyrinth of destiny. He was starting to get familiar with the place. While he was exploring, the divine king of hell and the divine king of light bumped into each other. When they saw each other, they almost started fighting. After all, if they met Long Chen, they had to fight immediately. "It's you? What did you find after wandering around for so long?" The divine king of light was shining like the sun in the night. The divine king of hell said, "I met him, but he kidnapped the princess and had Demon Wa's help. I couldn't deal with him." "Demon Wa?" The divine king of light shook his head. "I should have killed or imprisoned Demon Wa when I first encountered her. At that time, I didn't pay attention to her and Long Chen at all. I didn't expect him to cause us so much trouble today, especially when he kidnapped the princess." The infernal divine king clenched his teeth in anger. In the past, everything was under his control, but now, it was as if he was sitting on pins and needles, extremely troublesome. His face was full of anger and worry. "So, he didn't even know that you killed his woman, right?" the radiant god king asked. The godly king of hell nodded. "That's right, it's just that he doesn't know that it was the princess who ordered it. If he knew, I'm afraid that the princess would be in danger." The radiant god king sank into his thoughts and said, "Since the divine king wants us to kill this child and has personally given the order, there must be something special about him. We have to act now. Since he has Devil Wa's help and kidnapped the princess, it'll be difficult for the four of us to face him alone. Do you have a way for us to move forward together?" The deity king of hell thought for a moment and said, "Long Chen and the princess are always together. When they cross the gate, there will be physical contact. Can we try it?" Physical contact? It was not easy to meet the god king of hell. Then let's try it. The two of them walked towards a gate of destiny. As they stepped through it, the two god kings held each other's hands. Although it was a little strange, they had no other choice in order to kill Long Chen and save the princess. As expected, they arrived at the same place. The two of them quickly let go. The deity king of hell said, "All right, let's continue chasing after Long Chen from now on." However, we can only wander around in this maze. He couldn't compare to the cursed world protector. Just as they were about to fight, there was a commotion behind them. Long Chen was shocked. He saw Light God King come out from the door behind him and come to the square. God Kings, I'm in trouble. Long Chen frowned. It was hard for Ink Desolation and Light God King to be absolutely safe. But something even more troublesome happened. The Infernal God King had actually emerged from the Radiant God King's divine kingdom. When he saw the confrontation between Long Chen and God King Ink Desolation, he could not help but laugh aloud. Long Chen, it's really been a while. I've been looking for you so hard. I never thought you'd be here. Chapter 27:13. Three God Kings. The situation was completely out of Long Chen's control. It was almost out of his control. This meant that the following conflict would definitely be rather dangerous. If he lost, it was very likely that he and all the dragon warriors would die. It would also harm Soyan, Xiaolang, and the others. This was definitely not an outcome that Long Chen wanted to see. Meeting like this was reasonable. The Radiant God King had always been studying the Labyrinth of Destiny. He had also guessed that Long Chen would be here. It was just a coincidence. If Long Chen had come a little later, he might have encountered the three God Kings right from the start. After all, the three God Kings were not stupid. Being nervous was useless. They could only fight to the death. Fortunately, the Starry God King did not come. Otherwise, if all four God Kings had come, he really would not have any chance of winning. Don't leave my side, he warned Soyan again. Even if something happened to him, he could not let anything happen to Soyan. Don't worry, brother. Soyan nodded heavily. She knew that it was very difficult to face such a situation, but she was also determined. She also wanted to take revenge for Lingxi. Although Lingxi was fine, she knew that the assassination had caused great psychological damage to Long Chen. The hundreds of white dragons also sensed the existence of danger. They seemed to be able to sense Long Chen's mind. They surrounded Long Chen and looked at the three God Kings with hatred. Long Chen said, "That's right. It really is a coincidence. My luck is bad to actually meet the three God Kings here. So, what do you think we should do next?" The God King of Hell said, "Let Biyao go first." "What's the condition?" Long Chen sneered. The God King of Hell also sneered, "You still want to negotiate with me in a place like this? Although the white dragons are indeed frightening, they are not much of a threat to us. You don't have the right to negotiate with us. If you let the princess go, we might be able to put in a good word for you in front of the God Emperor in the future to ease your pain." Long Chen's entire body was covered with dragon scales. No matter if it was his dragon claws or dragon tail, they all pierced into Biyao's body, entangling with her. The three God Kings watched as Biyao's tender skin became bloody. They frowned, and at this time, Biyao also felt pain. "Tell them you're afraid of death." Long Chen whispered into Biyao's ear as he looked coldly at the three God Kings. In her panic, Biyao hurriedly said, "Don't move." After interacting with Long Chen for the past few days, she had seen Long Chen's decisiveness and ruthlessness. If the three God Kings really did not consider it clearly, then it would be a life-and-death struggle. Long Chen wanted to give them a headache. The Radiant God King said, "All right. If you let the princess go, we can let the people of the 5 great dragon cities go back and let them continue to pass on their legacy." This was the biggest concession they could make. The premise was that Long Chen had to surrender. In fact, Long Chen understood that they were just trying to stall for time through negotiations and find an opportunity to make a move. Once Biyao was no longer in his hands, it would be time for them to make a move. They were good at lying, and Long Chen did not trust them at all. He smiled, "You don't have any sincerity at all. Then I'll talk about my conditions. I can let Biyao go, no problem. My condition is that you let me in." The direction Long Chen pointed to was the heavenly palace of destiny. The Hell God King and the Radiant God King only needed a glance to know that it was the key to the labyrinth of destiny. If he really could let Biyao go, then there was no harm in letting him in. After all, they could chase after him. But Ink Desolation refused. He said, only he can enter that place. At this moment, Biyao woke up and asked angrily, Long Chen went in? The Light God King nodded. Biyao's expression flickered. I'll tell my father everything that happened here. It's useless for him to hide in there. My father will definitely come and kill him. We'll wait here for my father. As long as he was fine, it wouldn't be a big deal to catch Long Chen. They didn't expect Long Chen to kidnap Biyao, so they admitted defeat this time. For dignified God Kings were actually played by Long Chen like monkeys. The three God Kings were trying to think of a way to enter the Destiny Sky Palace. Suddenly, the rules descended again. For a moment, the world spun. The God Kings couldn't stop the rules. Time and space changed, and the environment changed. The God Kings and Biyao found themselves outside the Destiny Sky Palace. Down below, on the huge gray planet, the group of white snakes suddenly disappeared. The two devouring caves also disappeared, and the bottomless pit was nowhere to be seen. Long Chen was completely sealed inside Planet Destiny. Now that he had lost the passageway, he would have to blast this huge planet open in order to find Long Chen. Tomorrow's lottery, a phone, super difficult, add WeChat ID, phone Qingyang. They always thought that they had Long Chen in the bag, but they never thought that they would be fooled by this native until now. What are you waiting for? Biyao scolded them. Only then did the other gods disperse. As long as Long Chen didn't show up, their days continued to be peaceful. With the two God Kings in the lead, the other gods also strictly guarded the divine planet of destiny. To the people of the Draconic Right continent, they already guessed that Long Chen wasn't dead. Even so, the gods still acted as if they were facing a great enemy. From this point, it could be seen that Long Chen was definitely fine. Only then did this epic battle come to an end. As long as Long Chen wasn't dead, everyone could rest assured. But to Long Chen, this was just the beginning. He finally fulfilled the wish he had when he first came to the divine planet of destiny, which was to come to the divine palace of destiny. Now, he was in a palace. This palace was endless, and the place he was in was an endless corridor of light that rushed into the endless distance. It was quiet and far away. As for what exactly was there, Long Chen didn't know. Finally, he was completely safe. In the divine nation, the dragon martialists burst into cheers and applause, cheering for Long Chen. In this battle, no matter the outcome, they all supported Long Chen, and Long Chen didn't let them down. Mo Xiaolang and Sui Yan held hands sweetly. Because of Long Chen's help, they both became stronger. Mo Xiaolang became a demon king, and Sui Yan regained her power as a god king. She could even use more rules. They were also full of expectations for the divine palace of destiny. The most obvious thing in the surroundings were the walls on both sides. There were many squares on the walls on both sides. The squares weren't big, and each of them was as long as an arm. In each square, there was a milky white flame burning. The endless corridor seemed to be filled with the same kind of squares, and the milky white flames. What's this? Long Chen approached one of the milky white flames. He took a closer look, and the flames seemed to reflect a person's face. Then, Long Chen seemed to be watching a person's story. He saw the life of an ordinary person. He was stupid since he was young. His parents died early. He worked hard and finally succeeded in his cultivation. Then, with the help of the eternal opal, he absorbed the Creator's spirit, and now he had the power of the God martial arts realm. In the future, Yi Futian could vaguely see the trajectory of his fate. Although it was blurry, he could roughly see it. This flame is this person's fate. Long Chen was deeply shocked. He looked at the other flame. It was a girl. Her situation was much more tragic. She had been raped when she was young, and now she was still living in the mortal world. She was weak, and even if the eternal opal came, it wouldn't be able to change her fate. Further away, he couldn't see clearly. Every flame recorded a person's past, present, and future. But the future seemed to have many directions. They could live, and they could die. Flames were extinguished, and new flames were born. That almost meant that when one person died, another person was born. This heavenly palace of fate actually recorded the fate of every person, not just humans, but even beasts. At first, Long Chen looked at every single one of them very carefully. But later on, he realized that there were simply too many milky white flames. He began to move forward at high speed in this endless corridor, quickly passing through almost everyone's fate. After a few months, he finally realized that this endless corridor was actually burning the fate of everyone in the dragon sacrificial realm. Even the fate of the dragon warriors in the 5 major dragon cities was in it. However, the fate of Long Chen and those closest to him was missing. Maybe they had all become gods, or maybe there were other reasons. He even saw Yang Yu's flame of fate. Unfortunately, her flame was too mysterious. He couldn't see it clearly at all, and those empty places were all places where she and Long Qinglan were together. In other words, Long Qinglan was also someone who was not in this fate. 1 trillion lives. It really wasn't easy to walk through this corridor. Long Chen looked at the fate of millions of people, and he had a lot of insights. Suddenly, he seemed to understand what fate was, and what wishes were. Fate was illusory. Everyone had many directions of development, and they were all uncertain. He might have a few paths in the future, and as for which path to take, whether it was life or death, it all depended on the individual choice. Wishes were the desire in their hearts, their dreams. One person's desire was very ordinary, but when the desire of countless living beings gathered together, it would directly impact the rules of the entire world, and bring about some incredible changes. By looking at the fate of so many people, Long Chen vaguely touched the rules of fate. Even he didn't know how much time had passed. Lingxi was still undergoing the final transformation. Long Chen roughly understood that she would undergo a very big change. In the future, she might also become the new god Empress Ling Su, and with his help, it might even be more than that. Finally, he walked through this corridor of fate. It was empty in front of him. Long Chen looked back at the corridor of fate, and his heart was very touched. Fate is not predetermined, and everyone will have a different future. Presumably, the mixed Yuan Heaven's fate dragon controls fate, but it is only to provide choices. As for which path to walk, it still depends on oneself. Precisely because nothing was destined, he firmly believed that as long as he worked hard and was strong, he could completely change fate. Even a small ant's fate was not predetermined, but had a choice. Of course, what choice one had would depend on one's capital. It was unlikely that an ant could become a god. But Long Chen was an ant, and he broke through the heavy shackles of fate, and achieved his current realm. He was very curious. Now that he was prepared, what was waiting for him in front of him? As he walked forward on this empty land, it suddenly became much hotter. The further he went, the more terrifying the heat became, until a blazing white flame appeared in front of him. There are many divine flames in front. Mo Xiaolang smelled it. Long Chen let him out of the divine nation, and the two of them walked forward together. The terrifying flame made Mo Xiaolang a little excited. How can there be such real divine flames in this place? Long Chen was very curious. He gradually saw many colors of the flames, and it seemed that there was more than one type of divine flame. An abyss appeared in front of him. It was already very hot here, and even Long Chen's body was feeling rather uncomfortable. Even a perfected divine lord's body would probably not be able to withstand such heat. But the flames were actually still far from them. Looking down into the abyss, they were stunned. Hundreds of divine flames surrounded a white flame, and before that white flame, those divine flames seemed to be kneeling, submitting to that white flame. Ancestral flame. Questions will be sent at 12:00 sharp tomorrow, and the prize will be an Android large screen claw device. This madman is going all out. Ha, hurry up and add me on WeChat, Feng Qingyang.